Good afternoon, everyone, and you join me here with the great Simon Roberts. Hello, Simon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Thank you for spending a little lunchtime time with us as Gold Hat and McRoberts interrogate Harold, or is it Robertsburg and McHat? It's probably
Oh, I
probably
don't
better
know.
that way, isn't it? Um,
All right, I'll
as
be
we
the
interrogate
Irish
Pinter.
Celtic side.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is hopefully the first of a few small streams on various kind of cultural or arty things. The sort of things that we normally get sidetracked into discussing on deepest law.
Yeah. Yeah, the
But
restraining leash of AA pulls us tight, and we're breaking free here, roaming free across the lands of literature and art and film and all sorts.
Yes. So today we will be discussing and hopefully live reviewing, YouTube censorship permitting, Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party, which is a play from 1958. It's described as a comedy of menace, and it is set in a rundown English boarding house on the seaside. So, Simon, why don't you give us a little intro, briefly, as to kind of the state of British theatre by the late 50s and a bit about Harold Pinter, his background?
Well, as I said, we were chatting before the stream. My sense of British theatre in the 50s, I guess, is something that's become a kind of pale echo of a sort of 19th century illusionist theatre. By illusionist we mean attempting to sort of represent realism in all its forms, and I suppose to an extent it's at the pivot point where the idea of psychological realism begins to make an incursion into the consciousness of British artists because of the power of America and film and Brando and the method and the sense of naturalism. So the British theatre is kind of, it feels like it's sort of a bit dusty and creaking, a little bit like the boarding house in the birthday party, and it needs kind of sort of brushing off. There's an era of the sort of the 1930s kind of drawing room coward kind of sort of the genteel agonies of the bourgeois being played out on stage, and this of course is the period of something of a revolution of the angry young men, Osborne and so on, coming in and attempting to kind of express a dissatisfaction with that sort of as I say, archaic, slightly preening style of theatre, which has also inherited an acting style of some kind of, if you like, mannered quality and bombast. And it's attempting to kind of break free of that. So there's lots of interesting things going on, I think, at this time in British theatre. My main sort of interest was always the kind of the classics, but this is in the time when the classics are somewhat embalmed, in Stratford, and the Royal Shakespeare Company kind of hasn't been formed. It's kind of its 60s experimentalism hasn't kind of broken out yet. But what you have here are these plays which almost seem to sort of smuggle themselves in, disguised as forms of domestic drama, let's say, but with an undercurrent that's unsettling and fracturing. And the interesting thing about this play, of course, is it was incredibly unsuccessful when it hit the stage. I think it sort of
Yes, that's right.
started at the Cambridge Arts Theatre, and it was received quite well, because it's in a kind of an academic context there. So some of its, its kind of stark quality possibly stands out as an interesting conversational provocation and an intellectual, digestion of the piece. But then when it goes to London, it closes after 8 days, which I hadn't realised.
Yes, I think yes, six performances. I think it was given, with audiences sometimes numbering on sort of less than 5 people. And it was in fact Harold Pinter went to see one of these performances one day, and he was late. And the girl on the door said, "Oh, you can't come in. The play's already started." And he said, "Oh, I'm actually the author." And she looked at him with such pity in her eyes and said, "Oh, you poor dear, I'll let you in."
Yeah. It's funny when you have that situation, because there's sort of a tradition in theatre in a way that when I was at university and I did a lot of acting there, and I put on a production of Richard II, and there was one night where, you know, there was literally one person in the audience. It was just a slow night. And there's a sort of tradition where you go out and you sort of ask the person if you actually want us to do the play, because when the cast outnumbers the
Yeah,
audience, there's a sort of thing of you. It's kind of pathetic and funny. I mean,
yeah.
luckily this guy was pretty, like keen and said,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, of course.
you're essentially giving him a command performance. I mean,
Which
it's
is
quite
great.
special,
Yeah,
isn't
I
it?
kind of I
Yeah,
kind of like the idea of honoring the audience in that way to some extent. But yeah,
yeah,
it's a sort of funny
yeah.
thing. So yeah, I mean, it's I mean, it's worth saying something about Pinter himself. He's basically he's a Hackney grammar school boy. He's
Yeah,
Jewish.
Jewish,
He's atheist. He went to RADA. He left apparently due to a nervous breakdown. Um,
which he actually faked,
yeah,
because he just hated, he hated it basically.
and which is understandable in the context when you learn that he was also a conchi. He was a conscientious objector to
Yeah,
national service, for which I think he was prosecuted. So he kind of
yes,
seemed
he was.
determined not to fit in.
Yes, a very very a perpetual outsider.
Yeah,
And we should say, I mean, not a deprived childhood. His parents were, I think, sort of very typical sort of East End Jewish shopkeepers.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but quite rough in the sense that it was, you had the 30s and then the war, and he was known for being a brawler all through his life.
yeah, yeah,
He couldn't resist the fight, whether it was, political or physical. He
yeah.
was often getting booked in London police cells for this kind of thing, running around and smashing chairs up in pubs and things.
He would be
Um,
your classic kind of I wouldn't say activist, because that gives a kind of cheap modern sort of sense of what we're talking about with Pinter. But
mm,
he was a kind of firebrand in his way, and at the time he was sort of involved in the early stirrings of things like CND and anti-apartheid in South Africa. Um,
yes,
and
he
and
was he
and
was he was he was kind of caricatured for it for a lot of his life, because he was so almost sort of absurdly obsessed with any foreign cause that he felt was, needed justice. I mean, I can't remember who tells the anecdote, but it was, someone had, gone into maybe Keith Waterhouse, actually. Someone had gone into a very very fine restaurant on the Strand in London, and they saw Pinter there sat alone at a table, and he just had one of his later plays produced to enormous success, enormous acclaim. He's at the height of his powers. He's wealthy. He's respected. Everything's going well for him. He's got a happy marriage with Antonia Fraser. It's all going well for him.
Hmm.
And he's sat there like a volcano, you
yeah,
know, glowering into his food, hardly touching it. And the person goes over to him and said, are you feeling all right there, Mr. Pinter? And he said, have you heard what they're doing in Bougainvillea?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's always worried about a cause somewhere.
He's a man of serious concerns and actually great
Mm.
precision in his expression. There's an interesting book I've been reading, Conversations with Pinter by Mel Gussow, and there's various interviews that Gussow did from the early 70s onwards. In the sort of, you're already in the wake of Pinter's success, this strange success that starts with, little success, and then, he goes on to become a kind of screenwriter and playwright de jour. Hosting parties, at his house on his flat on Hanover Terrace, for the Beatles. So he's kind of it's kind of a meteoric rise to success for the Hackney Grammar School boy. What he's also got is this sort of history of working in these jobs, which I found interesting. He worked variously as a waiter, a postman, a bouncer, and a snow clearer. And it's these jobs where you think that when you characterize those kinds of people, they're jobs of a certain kind of loneliness, a certain kind of held in violence. Yeah. You can see you can see Pinter as a waiter, seething at people. You can see him
Mm.
as a postman, sort of trudging in a lonely, sort of compelled fashion. And they're these jobs of they're an odd mixture of like presence and physicality, but not a lot of talking. lots of silence. And it's almost like he puts himself in those positions where there's a sense of being at the sort of the margin of civilization and violence and action, but everything is kind of held in suspension for that moment. There are also jobs where you can cultivate a sense of, Pinter's very much a kind of sense of social justice before we would have said words like social justice. But he's got that contained fury of, the idea of the working class. But again, when you know about Pinter's later life, it's very hard to think of working class in relation to him, because he literally lived in a sort of, this grace and favor house on Hanover Terrace.
Sprawling mansion. Yeah.
Enormous. It's sold.
I've walked past it. It is grand. It's huge.
Yeah, I'll put a link to the last time it was sold, a listing, because it's absolutely incredible inside, because it was sold for about 17 million or something a few years ago. And when he's in one of the interviews, he talks about one of his other plays he was doing. He said, I was just lying on the sofa downstairs at home one day, and he saw, when you get an impression of what home is like for Harold Pinter at that time, even in the 60s and 70s, it wasn't like this was later in life. This was quite early on. He had quite a successful, rise to, prominence and wealth. And that's always kind of interesting about Pinter, that, you've got this man who, he likes these. He is kind of, in a way, like the cultured thug, sort of, in a sense. He's got this sense of violence about him. He's got this sense of restraint, with that violence. But I thought I'd read just an interesting little passage from the Gusau interviews, and it gives a sense of Pinter's character. And I'll just throw this off. It says, this is 1971. The playwright came to New York for the opening of Old Times. With Peter Hall, he was working day and sometimes night on the production, shaping up the cast, all new to the play: Robert Shaw, Mary Ewer, and Rosemary Harris. My meeting with him took place one afternoon at 3 p.m. after rehearsal. We met in his suite at the Hotel Pierre, where he was staying by himself. His wife, Vivian Merchant, was still starring in Old Times in London in the pivotal role of Anna, and their 13-year-old son Daniel was in school. During our talk, which went on into the early evening, Pinter got up to eat a sandwich, pour coffee, and later scotch on the rocks. He smoked continually, punctuating the pauses with exhalations. There were many pauses and silences, as he measured his words and verbally edited himself in search of his exact meaning. He spoke clearly, with his deep, resonant actor's voice. His diction was precise, sometimes clipped. Consequential and emotional statements were often said softly and hurriedly, as if he were afraid someone might overhear him. The picture was of one totally in command of himself. And there's something about that. I think you can get an echo of the Goldberg character I think so. That, and of course he plays Goldberg in a BBC production, which is also on YouTube. You can go and see it and compare it to the film we're looking at today.
Now, I just want to make a note about the origins of the play, because when Pinter was younger, he was an actor in what we know as rep, or the repertory, which, for those of you who don't know, because it doesn't really exist now, it was basically just small touring companies that would do kind of a variety of different plays, some new, some old. Some of all different types, and they would just tour around the country.
They could be touring, they could be fixed to a regional theatre. So, the rep company, I think classically you'd rehearse and mount plays within a couple of weeks, and you'd be doing quite a few plays at once. It was a kind of actor boot camp in a way. You would have the regional theatres with the reps, and then you would have what was called the number one circuit, which were the bigger provincial houses, in the big cities, where you would get the more, prestigious productions and the touring productions. Donald Wolfett would come and give his Lear there, or something like that, and your reps were kind of your engine houses for producing actors. Either after drama school or more commonly, in a sense, through the apprenticing process, which kind of existed when theatre was seen as a sort of a trade and a craft that you developed by doing it in the way that people had for hundreds of years, developed trade and craft in England.
Yes, and yeah, and as you say, it was an extremely good training ground. It's partly why we produce so many high caliber actors over the past 70, 80 years.
Mm.
And of course, it was partly because it was so brutal.
Mm.
In
Yeah.
that the pay was awful, competition was fierce, conditions were often deplorable, and you'd pretty much be having to you'd have to learn a new part, within days of just having started a different one.
Yeah, and
And
it was
there
empirical.
was and there was no room for fooling around.
No,
Um,
it wasn't
yeah,
theory led. It was empirical. You
no,
you you got
yeah,
results by
you acted.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you worked in the shadow of older actors who would give you advice and refine and help you. If you like, create your stage effects. To use a word that Stanislavski would find disparaging. But essentially, yeah, you had an eye put on you, and you developed your eye for being on the stage yourself. And I mean, I think in a sense, for a young actor, it's actually a brilliant thing of, I mean, when I wanted to, become an actor years ago, it was a question of, well, you had to stump up the money to go to somewhere like RADA, and it would be a phenomenal amount of money, and that was the criteria for entry, and it just wasn't possible if you if you were basically poor. But this was a system where I think people, in a sense, did achieve their beginnings of their career through exposure to the eyes of others, and whether they were able to achieve effects and then take direction and create performances rather than just
Mm.
have them entrained into them by an institutional system.
Yes, and it's the total lack of theory as well. It's just no, you've just got to get up there and do the part, right? Act
Yeah,
the part. Just
yeah,
you've got to do it.
empiric
There is
theatre.
there isn't anything extraneous. I just final notes about just to illustrate what it was like to come up through RADA without drama school or anything like that. It was there was an interview with the actor Ian McNeice,
Mm.
who some people most people here will know him as the public announcer in the TV show Rome, the very big man who announced,
The
Julius
meme,
Caesar.
yes. Yeah.
Yes, and he said that he got his first ever job at the age of 15 in a touring rep company that had
Mm.
stage ponies that would sometimes go on in panto shows. And his job was literally to shovel shit in the
Yeah.
pony pit at the back of the stage. And he thought, well, this must be a good place to start because at least you can't get any lower than shoveling shit in the
Exactly.
theatre.
You undergo all of those humiliations early on.
Mm,
But the thing is, the great thing about it is as an older person, you look back at the opportunity for a younger actor to do that amount of work in that time,
mm,
when you've got the energy, when you've got the neuroplasticity to take on
yeah,
and learn lines, and you think, crikey, that is gold to have that kind of,
yes.
tough exposure early on in your career, and then everything else after that, the big subsidized companies, it must have been like walking on air, the feeling of walking those
Mm,
companies where you had everything
yes,
on
and
tap, everything provided.
dressing rooms and hotels and things.
Yeah.
So just to say, so the origin for this play, which is set in an English boarding house, or to be honest, it's set in a very small rundown house. The proprietress of which insists is a boarding house, which of course harks back to this kind of idea of Victorian gentility. The idea of the seaside boarding house, which would be
Yeah.
sort of sort of have a sort of vague grandeur to it.
Mm.
And Harold Pinter was actually during his rep years was staying in a town in these what he called filthy digs,
Mm.
with this landlady he thought was partly mad, this kind of very haggard old woman who was running around kind of giggling and singing and wouldn't stop offering them cups of tea, at really
Mm.
inopportune times and this kind of thing.
Mm.
So this play does really have a basis in that world. I mean, of course, anyone that's been to any provincial town or especially on the seaside will probably recognize these types of people and these types of houses because in a weird way a lot of them are still there. You still find
Yeah.
people like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this particular house in this film, the actual exteriors were filmed in Worthing, 7 Erriswell Road. If you want to look it up, it's got render on the outside now, and it looks like it's been tarted up. But the gate is still original. If you have a look at the images of that place, but what you're saying there is very interesting because there is something about this. There is something, despite Pinter's Jewish background, there's something where he was talked about as being a very English writer.
Yes, and
Simon.
I think that's justified. He really
Yeah,
was. I think. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, Simon Gray, another playwright, was talking about him. He said, Harold's always been a very English writer, rather than the enigmatic European intellectual like Beckett or Kafka that academics and critics would like to turn him into. Like Dickens, he can make one laugh in panic. I think that's a great kind of line. And the thing about the English provinciality of the play is interesting to me as well, because this is a time in the 50s, where we live in the wake of, famously Dean Acheson, the US Secretary of State, talks about Britain's lost an empire and has not yet found a place. And you've got this moment where Pinter's capturing, well, it's the English condition of the domestic as a kind of place of despair, and these kind of interlinked entrapments. It's a sort of terrible kind of anomie that goes on behind the lace curtains. It reminded me a lot of, if people know the comedian Tony Hancock, about the same time, actually, 1958, he does a famous episode of his show Hancock's Half Hour called Sunday Afternoon at Home. And it's Hancock. I mean, it starts almost in a Pinteresque way. It's Hancock just sighing, going, "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear," and it captures the sort of the classic, the English Sunday afternoon. It's a sort of era of lassitude,
Quiet desperation of Sundays,
boredom and sort of decay and festering. The gravy on the dinner plate is congealing. The conversation is very dulled, and all the energy of a Sunday afternoon is turning into sour indolence, and then it sort of congeals into this attacking quality. The classic, the way families fall out at Christmas. So it's this condition of Englishness, of people kind of misreading each other, of kind of interpreting purposes in each other, and it all gets entangles them, and it gets entangled as everybody's kind of living in this hugger-mugger way. There's sort of, you get a sense of them wanting space and freedom, but they're bound in by this proximity, and the dreaming radical quality of English liberty ends up with everybody kind of taking hostages of each other, and as if the power we have over each other is very unclear.
And that you get the sense they've all just been squeezed down into sort of nothing by the the pressures of the things they do, by the other people, and by work, and by all these I mean, you'll see that quite strongly with the character of Petey here in this play.
Yes.
Who well, there is a bit more to him which we won't reveal just yet, but he's this kind of rather donkey-like man, isn't he? Just sort of just vaguely puts up with everything around him. He just seems to sort of accept the situation.
The sort of long-suffering sense that haunts it. I mean, when I say haunt, I mean, obviously I'm on this kind of left cultural theory literary kick at the moment, where everything's about spectrality in the past, but
ontology.
But this for me is kind of, it is kind of, although Pinter kind of defies many interpretations in many ways, he disavows his own view of his play. He lets it land for the audience. But for me, there's something about the play which is it's repeated in English literary forms in a way. There's an element of this that's about the visitation to the house. I mean, Billy Friedkin, obviously, he does The Exorcist, which is kind of literally about a visitation, but there's something deeper that's echoed in Dickens. It's in 19th century literature and 20th century, ghost stories like M.R. James, or, Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories. A visitor comes to a house and tells a story, and so the home is kind of being penetrated by disquiet. There's this incursion of life, this interruption, and yet also a sense of nothing happening.
Yes. And also there's I mean, this play and the film especially, I think, have had a very quiet influence on a lot of later culture of the 20th century in the forms of the motifs. I mean, I always see echoes, and it's been noted by quite a few people, of Pulp Fiction, actually, in this whole idea of these two mysterious men in suits are coming down to get you. And I mean, it's. I don't think he's ever directly talked about it, but you can quite obviously see the influence of what is called Pinteresque dialogue on someone like, say, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah,
The kind of the and you know what Jerry Seinfeld would call talking about nothing. This was very radical at the time. This idea of characters not talking about each other or the plot or the action or moving the story along, just seemingly discussing trivia and flam.
And Pete, he has lines about this in the play, doesn't he? He talks that there's a theatre production going on in town, and Meg asks, "What's it about?" And he says, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just talking, really."
They just talk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I think we should begin. If you like to stop, just say pause and we will. And I'm to be honest, I'm skeptical that we will actually get through the entire thing in one stream, knowing what we're like.
That's good. That's good.
But exactly, but that's good. I mean, we can give them even more.
We're giving you gold, people. We're giving you gold here.
Natattainment. Pioneering the form.
Exactly.
Right then. So. If the stream cuts out, it'll probably be because YouTube has kicked us off. This whole film is actually on YouTube, so I'm hoping that the copyright, that they're not bothering to enforce it. But you know what it's like. So if that does happen, we may just have to come back and do a non-visual.
If we break it up enough, hopefully that will.
Yes.
We managed to do it with everything else.
Yes, but I'll just keep an eye on the chat, make sure we don't go offline. All right then. So the birthday party. Let me know, by the way, Simon, if the volume's all right, and if it's too quiet or too loud, chat.
Yes, and before we go ahead, I'll just say to the person in the chat asking about reviewing a Nigel's speech, I'm sorry, you've come to the wrong stream.
Who said that?
I won't.
I can't see anyone. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're doing in this.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Simon, we are having to compete for airtime with this Farage announcement at 2 o'clock. So we may lose a few viewers.
In our own way, we kind of are reviewing that speech, but through the medium of drama.
in a way. About Britain.
So this is the seaside town of Worthing.
And if you're wondering what that noise is, you'll find out later.
We saw the character of Petey there. In the first shot, laying out 6 deck chairs, one for each of the 6 characters.
He's a deck chair attendant, which is kind of I mean, obviously you still see them now, but they're a bit more like a parking pataway. But of course back then it was kind of it was a sort of a staple of the seaside. And of course because it's Britain, it was a man in a suit and a coat and a peak cap.
And it was a nice part of that era, which I mean I lived through to some extent. This is 68, but I'm from 71 onwards. But there was this kind of thing of you had jobs for old people in the kind of civic space. They might be retired. And they might be doing something like that, or like there's a shot in Blow Up, where he goes into the park and there's a woman of
groundskeeper and
just picking up rubbish, and they're a presence on the street, and they kind of keep things running.
Yes, and of course, in this kind of faded Victorian way, the idea of an old couple moving to a town like this and just spending their retirement years in a boarding house was fantasy for a lot of people. I mean, it was an ideal, going somewhere like this.
It still is, really, in a way. I mean, I like the idea, although you go to a lot of the South Coast former resort towns now, and of course, I mean, I did my motorbike test down in Hastings, and of course, Hastings has fallen on very hard times. It may have improved since, but a lot of these towns had kind of, gone to ruin, and they just became places where councils would house junkies and broken people, which is a shame because I love the idea of living in a
well, yes, because it was originally a kind of dreamlike preserve, for these people. Now I love the shot of the mess and
it's so horrible.
It's disgusting, isn't it?
Grotty.
See that's a detail in the obviously because Pinter script is a play, you don't have quite that amount of closeness.
That sink. That's almost a Withnalian sink.
Yes, there's a tea bag growing.
And I've said before on streams, actually, but this is very much like the layout of my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like this. It was it was kind of not this property. Well, the property that they do the exteriors for in Worthing, it's all tarted up inside. It's the same layout, but it's not the same one they're using here, because the house in the window behind is not the same as the ones in that road. But it's all been done up now, and it's all modern. You kind of forget how grotty things were at this time.
Yes, yeah,
And,
it really would have been. I mean, I mean, a lot of places in Britain we didn't even have indoor toilets until the 70s and 80s.
And you look in the kitchen here. There's bits of kind of tongue and groove clapboard on the back wall that people kind of improvised during the war.
Just to say, I've always loved Meg's pride, housewifely pride, in the fact that she provides cornflakes for breakfast. You know, she's cooking a fully.
Well, later on, Goldberg has a line about her. He doesn't even say you're a real balabusta, which is a Yiddish word for homemaker.
Standing up yet?
I don't know, is he?
I don't know. I haven't seen him down yet.
Well, he can't be up.
Haven't you seen him down?
I'm going to just come in.
Must be still asleep.
Conversations that go nowhere, of course. Talking about the same thing.
It's pure sort of what you would call phatic communication.
Same time as usual.
Of course, you know, anyone who knows anything about the people of Britain knows that this is how most people talk most of the time. You know.
Yes.
That's in the winter.
Oh, in the winter.
It's light later in winter.
Oh. What you reading?
It's just a baby.
They haven't. Who?
Some girl.
Who, Petey? Who?
Oh, I don't think you'd know her.
What's her name?
Lady Mary Splat.
I don't know her.
Lady Mary Splat.
What is it?
I mean, I don't know. Have you ever seen
It's a girl.
that comedy, The League of Gentlemen, that TV show?
Yeah, I've seen episodes of it. Yeah.
Is there any? Because I've never watched it. Is there any element of the kind of grotesque of that?
In the sense that it's cranked up to an absurd level, you know, with all the kind of grotesque faces and sort of non sequiturs. It's sort of Pinter on acid, I suppose. You know, you could say.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is part of the influence. I mean, this use of the demotic English conversation, you know, to really bring about this sense of sort of dread and dreariness, and also, I mean, it is funny. It's funny to watch them, you know, have this pointless conversation with each other. But, you know.
It does kind of start like a sort of playing like a sort of BBC sitcom in a way, because I mean, she actually, interestingly, she played Alf Garnett's wife.
Yes.
Till Death Us Do Part. Dandy Nichols, this actress here, this kind of very sort of kind of blousy, infantile woman. Yes,
and she was. This was her trademark, really. She always played these types of characters. You know, the old school character actress.
Boy. What a shame. I'll be sorry. Much rather have a little boy.
Oh, Dell's all right?
I'd much rather have a little boy.
I'll finish my cornflakes.
Very nice. Got something else for you.
Good.
It's the way the kind of repetitive idleness of the conversation captures something about, you know, they're sort of, she's constantly trying to verify the presence of people. You know, are you back?
Yes.
She says to him as he sits there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Who else would it be? Were your cornflakes nice? What are you reading? You know.
Yeah. I mean, these bits of food that she serves up. I mean,
but
the way
it's a very feminine, like it's the constant need to sort of, as you say, verify. It's very, very female way of speaking, isn't it?
And that's a lovely piece of acting there, where he gets up, comes and puts one plate down, picks up another, and there's a quality of brokenness and despair. But he puts on this. He kind of knows how to deal with her, doesn't he?
Yes, but I also I rather like that they don't push it into a sort of coldness or detachedness. There is sort of a warmth between them. You know, they're not. I don't think they're sort of unloving. It's just that, you know, they've just probably, you know, they've been at this for 50 years, and they just, you know, they just don't
Yeah,
have
and I
any
feel
energy left.
Petey manages it by you know, he rides the tiger, he maintains his inner calm, and he's realised that the way he has to deal with it is he has to humour her as if he would a mental defective. Yeah,
PT goes to the book club and reads Evola, you know,
just
and
look
rides
at
the tiger.
just look at her slumped posture and her slack jaw there, and Petey's he's calm, he's just reading his paper. Very nice fried bread, lovely.
I mean, yes, I mean, in a sense, he's the man amongst the ruins.
Yeah,
There he is. Yeah,
That's right.
Very nice.
I knew it was.
Yeah,
standing
nice.
over him to make sure he enjoys
wait.
the fried bread.
Yeah,
Two men
very
come up
nice
here,
as she's
please.
picked it out of a puddle of congealed grease in a dirty frying
No.
pan.
Oh, people should realize as well that you know, sort of your working class English food at this time, especially kind of outside of the cities, you know, a fried bread would have been a real treat.
It
you know,
was.
it's not. I don't think it's meant to be ironic. It's you know, because you know, you just had the war years. You probably, you know, this is within memory of close
course.
memory of rationing. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
things like butter and oil and, you know, glistening hot food. I mean, it was, you know, it really was a bit of a treat.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, I think rationing went on. Was it like up to 53 or 54 when this play came out?
Yes, it was. I think it was ended under the second Churchill government.
Yeah. And anyway,
yes.
We can put them up for a couple of nights.
Put them up? Here?
Yeah.
How many men?
2.
What'd you say?
I said I didn't know, and they said they'd come round to find out.
They're coming.
Well, they said they would.
Have they heard about us, Petey?
Yes, they must have done.
Yes, they must have done. They must have heard this was a very good boarding house. It is. This house is on the list.
It is.
The list.
So it is.
yes. I wonder about
Might
that
turn up
list.
today. You do it.
Ooh, I've got that lovely room they can have.
That room ready?
I've got the room with the armchair all ready for visitors.
You're sure?
Yes. I'll be all right then. If I come today.
Good.
I'm going to wake that boy.
The new show coming to the palace.
On the pier?
No, the palace in the town.
Stanley could have been in it. It's on the pier.
This is a straight show.
What do you mean?
Well, no dancing or singing.
What they do there?
Notice how she primps herself up there in preparation to go and wake Stanley.
Yes,
This is a signal for us.
And this is we'll see the slightly revolting nature of that relationship pretty soon.
Oh,
You like
That
the song,
boy,
eh, mate?
she says, of course.
I like listening to the piano. I used to like watching Stanley play the piano. Of course, he didn't sing. I'm going to call that boy. Stanley! Dan! I'm coming up to fetch you if you don't come down. I'm coming up. I'm going to count 3. 1,
Oh,
2,
God.
3. I'm coming
Here
to
she
get
comes.
you. Come on, get up, you naughty boy. Come on, Stan, it's breakfast time. Come on.
Get out!
Listen to the shrieking and the crashing.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of.
She sounds a bit like Terry Jones when he was in drag.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
he'd do the voice.
It does remind me of being a teenager as well. I think my mother used to delight in torturing me like this.
Oh yeah, many women have done this.
Getting me out of bed.
Yeah, just destroying the peace of the sensitive young man.
I love how the cornflakes always miss the bowl as well.
Yes, yeah. Here we go. The hacking smoker's cot and the pajama jacket.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of.
The rip in them. Look.
It is kind of, I mean, without getting too fancy, a bit of almost a Shakespearean echo. You know, this is the moment of birth. He's up, kind of puking and mewling, and you know.
Yes. And we should say, by the way, this is people will recognise him as Robert Shaw. most famously, he's in Jaws. Is he Quint?
Quint in Jaws, and
Yeah.
the James Bond's adversary in From Russia with Love.
That's right.
See?
Yeah. Great
Down
Welshman.
at last for his breakfast.
Yeah, very
Doesn't deserve any, does he, Petey?
very masculine actor.
Did you sleep well?
Now look at the sort of mothering bullying of this quite obviously middle-aged lodger by by Meg here. It's quite sick, actually.
Yeah.
It always makes me feel a bit nauseous.
I mean, she likes torturing him.
At all?
Yeah.
Do you ever
Picking
feel
out
And there's
Yeah.
obviously a bit of a
Eat
sexual
your breakfast,
undertone to it as well.
Yes,
Now
yes.
you eat up those cornflakes like a good boy. Go on.
Infantilizing him.
What the cornflakes like, Stan?
Horrible.
Those flakes, those lovely flakes.
Yeah, and of course he kind of plays up to it by being, you know, a naughty boy,
The people when they get up late.
torturing back a bit.
The milk's hot.
It's not. Petey, it is, didn't you, Petey?
That's right.
There you are, then.
Well, I can see I'll have to go down to one of those smart hotels on the front.
You won't get a better breakfast there than here.
How long's that been sat in there?
It's just grim.
Oh no!
I remember my grandmother had those horrible plastic things on the taps as well. It was very similar.
You'll like this.
The deprived upbringing of Mr. Roberts. See, we had it tough.
Well, I'm not gonna grind it in, but yeah, I mean, our family wasn't a well-to-do family at all, and my grandmother's family, they all lived in this one little house. It was the same layout,
I bet
serving
you don't know
hatch.
what it is.
Right.
Oh, yes,
And-
I
and-
do. What?
And to be honest, the
He knew.
decor. I mean, you couldn't call
I'm
it
just going to
decor.
pause so you can
Go into a reverie.
reminisce about the shot over here. You know.
Well, it was this kind of griminess. I mean, I've often said this about, you know, the 1970s. The memory was of going into houses where it wasn't like in TV 1970s with kind of, you know, Stanley Kubrick anaglypta type wallpaper. It was houses that hadn't been done up since the 30s or the 40s, and the walls were covered in a thin film of grease that stank of beer and fags. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that really exists anymore since the 80s, since everybody
No, I
did
don't
their
think it
places
does.
up. But places were kind of like this. I mean, you know, there'd be dodgy wiring and, you know, very old fixtures and fitments and things like the serving hatch, this kind of thing of convenience between the kitchen and the living room to kind of dole out food like a canteen.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a strange,
And
strange world.
it's the contrast. And I've seen people with the same sort of attitude. The immense house pride of Meg, when she lives in a, you know, she doesn't even, you know, bother to do basic upkeep or cleaning. You know,
Yeah,
places are just total
and
wreck.
yet there was it was kind of a fatuous kind of house pride as well, because as you say, there was a sort of an air of neglect. But I mean, it wasn't. I mean, sometimes it was obviously due to people having very limited means and just not being concerned to tarp things up. But at the same time, there would be a thing of, you know, there's always things in English comedy that, I mean, Hancock kind of parodies this as well. But, you know, working class people especially would say they would take great pride in putting out a lace doily on a table for something.
Yes. And we should say that there's a great deal of people who always did keep all these houses in absolutely top condition. You know, they were all, you know, there was that attitude as well.
Yeah, and there was
all Meg.
There was a sort of reaching towards something, you know, aspirational, you might say today, but it's not quite the right word. It was that, you know, working class people would say, look, you know, there was one lady I remember quoted, I can't remember, in a historical document somewhere, that she was sort of very working class, but she would say, but when we had guests around, we'd always use sugar tongs, you know. And it was,
And the idea of the best china that you'd only bring out for, you know, certain guests, and
which
and
would often
cutlery.
stay in a cabinet and not unused.
Yes, you'd never see them. You'd never even know they were there if you grew up in a house
there
like
to be
that.
seen, but not used. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Very, very English ideas about status and that certain. It's almost an implicit recognition that certain people are in some way superior and have to be, you know.
And there's an element
they have to have something different, China.
Yeah, and there's an element of preservation of the old. You know, I mean, Goldberg has a line, isn't it? Old is best or something,
Mm.
that, people, whereas contrast now is, I mean, the way people live now is they chuck out things, kind of on a whim and get something new,
Yeah.
new elements of furniture, new crockery, new design, whatever. But at this time, this just wasn't a thing. You kept
No.
made, do and mend. I mean, you see all the furniture there. It's old furniture already. There's no IKEA here. There's no kind of modernism.
Notice notice the large amount of Victorian objects in here as well. I mean, just when Meg was sat there with the sewing box, there was a Victorian. Is it called an escritoire, where the sort of lid folds out? You can use it as a sort of letter writing table. Yes.
Because that's what there was. There was mostly a preponderance of this dark old Victorian furniture that often you couldn't really sell after a certain point. I mean, my parents sort of sold antiques for a while, and at a certain point in the 80s, everybody wanted things that were kind of shiny black and kind of sparse, and they wanted sort of minimalism, and all this stuff all kind of went to be scrapped, really.
Yeah, it did. A lot of it was lost.
Wonderful surprise.
Didn't expect that, did you?
I bloody well didn't. Well, I'm off.
You go back to work?
Yes.
Your tea, you haven't had your tea.
Oh, it's all right. No time now.
I've got it made inside.
No, never mind. See you later. Ta-da, Stan. Ta-da.
He wants to get away.
Yeah, desperate.
So this is interesting where the tone changes now that he's left between Stan and Meg.
What do you mean?
You're a bad wife.
I'm not. Who said I am?
Not to make your husband a cup of tea. It's terrible.
He knows I'm not a bad wife.
Giving him sour milk instead.
Wasn't sour.
It's graceful.
You mind your own business anyway. Well, find many better wives than me, I can tell you. I keep a very nice house and I keep it clean. Yes, and this house is very well known for a very good boarding house for visitors.
Visitors? Do you know how many visitors you've had since I've been here?
How many?
One.
Who?
Me. I'm your visitor.
You're a liar. This house is on the list.
I bet it is.
I know it is. Was it nice?
What?
The fried bread.
Succulent.
Oh, you shouldn't say that word.
What word?
That word you said.
What? Succulent?
Don't say it.
What's the matter with it?
You shouldn't say that word to a married woman.
Is that a fact?
Yes.
Well, I never knew that.
But it's true.
Who told you that?
Never you mind.
Well, if I can't say it to a married woman, who can I say it to?
Oi, you're bad.
Just pause here for a second. It's this is an interesting point. Again, this is one of those things that sort of if you I don't want to sound the old man, but if you weren't there, you don't remember. There was an odd thing about language back then that it's very difficult to convey now, because I mean, even on the BBC, the F-bomb drops everywhere. But back then, people were very, certainly, I remember as a kid, people were very particular about genteel language, not in the sense of aping the bourgeoisie or the aristocracy or anything like that. It was the sense of, there were certain sensitivities about words. And I always remember as a kid, this would be something you would see like on the telly, like the Two Ronnies or Morecambe and Wise. They'd be singing a kind of slightly risque song, and they would come up to a line where there was a rhyme. Yeah. And, like they put their hand on a lady's something or other, and the word might be actually belly. Yeah. And the word belly, I remember, was kind of risque, and it sounds very weird.
It's a little bit too intimate.
It's a bit, it's too visual. It's got the sense of, sort of
the navel,
the wobble, and the fecundity of sexual allure. And it's odd, but there were certain words that were very charged. I remember John Cleese talking about this with Monty Python as well. They had a sketch where there was a Terry Gilliam animation where there was a prince, a sort of a magic, prince in a fairy tale kind of story. And he's attacked by a black spot. And I think the original script was, he gets attacked by the black spot, and the voiceover says, and then he died of cancer. And it was kind of, they cut the word cancer after a bit of a struggle, because it was just felt to be like too on the nose. That word was like, it was like the language of Mordor. Yeah. So words were actually quite charged. I mean, it's very difficult to imagine now, as I say, because you kind of can't, because everybody swears all the time now or uses bad language, or even goes to the extent of forcing the use of the most grotesque language and imagery. And back then it was kind of, no, we don't talk like that, and it was actually avoided so that you could have a comic rhyme on the telly where they avoided saying the word belly and they rhymed it with something else instead, like jelly or something.
Yes, and I mean the English sensitivity around sex and intimacy, especially in a house like this, was fierce.
Yeah.
At this time, it comes across. I mean, one of Pinter's early motivations was this kind of bizarre, because he was a very kind of sensual man.
Yes.
And he found this bizarre kind of sort of almost Orwellian societal taboo on anything sexual. I mean, he did what Michael Billington, his biographer and one of his greatest critical allies to his career, calls an extremely risky thing to do in the early 1950s, where he took a girlfriend to a hotel for the weekend somewhere on the coast, and they had to check in as Mr. and Mrs. Harold Pinter. Because you would not, and of course, because it was hugely risky, because they were very young, they were obviously lovers, and if the proprietor had decided to
you'd be out
to rumble them, you could be in serious trouble. I mean, there's echoes of this in Faulty Towers, of course, isn't there? Where Basil, because he's very repressed and a bit frustrated, doesn't want to let these two kind of liberated young people into the hotel because they're not married, Sybil, not married. Because of course that would have been a rule in good hotels back in the day.
It was. I mean, even going back to Shakespeare, you have characters, talking about, I don't want it said that I keep a bawdy house. I mean, the way that the domestic containment of kind of animal instinct. I mean, as you say, Pinter, he says, I'm surely not uncommon, by no means a rare example of the human race, when I say that I like sex and I like thinking about sex too. And again, like I said about the words, this was kind of impossible in a sort of sense of the public exchange of dialogue. It kind of had to be done by, euphemism, gesture, very covertly. And again, it's difficult to convey what it was like when
there's that atmosphere of cloying desperation. I mean, AA makes this point about it's what kind of fuels the undertone of something like the Carry On films, where it's the energy of all men, no matter how good looking or what position, are kind of desperately repressed when it comes to sex, and the women they have will either be a shrew and a harridan or an unattainable young beautiful girl, right? There's this constant sense of like you wherever you are in the triangle, you don't get what it is you want.
That's right. Frustration is kind of endemic.
Frustration, and you can there is a younger female character who will enter fairly shortly, and that will kind of get more developed as well. Just a point about the word, you're telling him off using a word like succulence, which I'm pretty sure that probably did actually happen to Pinter at some point. You'd think, it seems like something that a woman like this would tell you off for saying. Did you ever get told off for using the word knackered? Because I got quite a strict telling off for that.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of, there were gradations of swear word, and knackered would have been one, absolutely.
Well, because it was an older woman who quite fiercely told me off it, and I was very surprised, because I thought it just meant tired. I thought it was just a slang word for tired, but apparently. To a certain generation, it's a very, very it specifically means tired after having done a certain act. So I
remember one day I went into the kitchen, and there was a really big fly buzzing around. It was really bothering me, and I tried, and I thought there was nobody home, and I was about 12 or something, and I screamed at this bastard fly, and I think my father was in the house or something like that. And he had heard me, and he told me off later for saying, your mother might have heard you say that, and I was kind of in trouble just for calling it a bastard fly.
Fly. I just imagine him coming running in. What is this chaos? Swear, effing and blinding, effing and jet.
I mean, there just wasn't any. I mean, you just, like you say, words now that are just unremarkable.
Well, in a way, it sort of preserves the power of them, doesn't it? You have to have a really good reason to reach that extent of language.
But I'm glad you reminded me of that one. Knackered, yeah, that was one.
Knackered,
And
yeah.
there were others as well that now you wouldn't think twice, but it was just they were deemed to be kind of, oh, you're on the boundary of being very unacceptable there.
Yes.
Have some tea.
You want some tea? Say please. Please. Say sorry first.
Sorry first.
No, just sorry.
Just sorry.
Oh, you deserve the strap.
Don't do that.
You deserve the strap.
Just pause again. Actually, there's just something I want to say about this. This is plays written in 58. This is 68, but there's something about Shaw here that he's kind of it's a new kind of energy. It's like the energy of the Bolshoi student. He's an adult man. I mean, she's treating him like a child, but he's an adult man. I mean, he's even somewhat into middle age here. I mean, he's thinning on top, and he's a bit the worse for wear. But the energy he has with the glasses. I mean, famously, a bit later, actually a bit earlier than this, in 65, David Warner played Hamlet, and they talked about it as the student Hamlet. Because there was this thing about the student radical energy in the air, and the way that things like satire, Peter Cook's The Establishment Club, and all of these things were taking these young people who were creating mockery and acerbic commentary on what was perceived to be the dominant establishment power in the country. And so the idea of the kind of the radical student, I think there's a little bit invested in this part here, the way he plays this.
Well, I mean, I imagine this is what living with Peter Cook was probably like, to be honest. He does give me that impression, certainly.
Yeah.
I brought the pot in.
I don't know what I'd do without you.
The sarcasm, that he uses.
Why not?
I mean, that in a way is kind of a bit of a shock factor as well.
Yes.
There's no etiquette in that way.
How long has that tea been in the pot?
It's good tea. Good strong tea.
That isn't tea, it's gravy.
It's not.
Get out of it, you succulent old washing bag.
I am not. And it isn't your place to tell me if I am.
It isn't your place to come into a man's bedroom and wake him up.
Stanley.
That's a very telling moment there that
yes.
when Petey's around, she treats him like a son, like a child. But when Petey's out, she gets a bit more sexual frisson, and she's, more.
It was a wonderfully knowing face there, wasn't it? Yeah. All right. I see your game. Yeah. I also like the way he so effortlessly steers between kind of just playful sarcasm and actual rage, because of course he is a deeply frustrated, extremely bored, wound up man, obviously stuck in this house. And also, as we'll see, he has no life outside of this. This is his daily existence. He doesn't do anything else. So
I mean, this is interesting.
Teetering on madness.
Yeah. Vingle in the chat there makes a comment. British guys commenting on a film about British people drinking tea and bickering, Kino, and it is kind of funny because the part of this play is this anatomic dissection of these sort of micro expressions of British life, where people are kind of both sort of torturing each other and trying to tantalize each other, and they're playing with these different personae socially because of the kind of sense of the social pressure within the domestic setting, and with strangers and with people and hidden agendas and things like this. There's it's all very deeply neurotic in a way as well, but it's also very interesting as a kind of comedy of manners in a very dark sense.
Yes, and as you say, the thing about the tea is sort of like almost Wallace and Gromit level of sort of British domesticity, where it's almost like the tea is mandatory. Like the tea is forced upon him. It's and of course it's rubbish. It does gravy. It probably does taste horrible. Made in this disgusting teapot.
And tea is very transactional in a way, because I mean I've not drunk a lot of tea in my life actually, and I mean I'm terrible. I tend to live on fizzy drinks, but when I'm with people who offer me tea and I say, can I have a Coke or something, there's a judgment that hits you.
There is something. It is it is actually quite socially difficult, like in certain settings, to actually say no to a cup of tea.
If you're calibrated as not being a tea drinker, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, and of course, because it sort of implies a rejection in some way of someone's hospitality. It's almost like you're just expected to have it even if you don't want it. Just
Yeah, exactly. Sort of Carlylean, sort of put up with something even though you hate it because it's character building.
I mean, I'm lucky in that I do really like tea. It's just that a lot of people make awful cups of tea.
I've learned to like tea now, and I judge when I say yes to it because I'm aware I'll be judged if I don't have it.
Yes. Oh well.
Do you like your cup of tea of a morning? The one I'll bring you?
I can't drink this muck. Didn't anybody ever tell you to warm the pot at least?
Good strong tea, that's all.
Oh, God. I'm tired.
Dan,
What?
am I really succulent?
Oh, you are. I'd rather have you than a cold in the nose any day.
That's almost a Shakespearean line. I'd rather have you than a cold in the nose.
And it's one of those idioms that would have been very common at the time, typical kind of things like that.
I mean, she is very well cast. There is something hovering about this woman that, I mean, I don't like to be ungenerous about women's appearances. But she kind of wasn't a looker, but she has a sexuality about her.
She does. There's a naughtiness in the face. And the way it's, I was going to pause and say, it's that you can tell these people were trained in the theater, because it's all the movements are so precise. The way she kind of dejectedly goes over to that dresser, and then she turns around and sort of starts swaying her hips almost, and kind of crimping a little bit. It's so perfectly judged, and of course that it's you can tell it's experienced, trained acting. This is acting with capital A.
Yeah, but and also there's a gamey kind of quality here, in the sense of games, as Pinter is famously obsessed with cricket.
Yes. So
when I
Beckett,
watched,
actually.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know about Beckett. That's interesting.
He's sorry to be brief aside. Beckett is the only man to have won a Nobel Prize and appear in Wisdom. So
no way, I didn't know that, especially as an Irishman. I didn't know that. I thought there'll be, because cricket, I thought Pinter's love of cricket, he says one of my main obsessions in life is the game of cricket. I play and watch and read about it all the time. That apparently surprises people. He says it's a normal, healthy activity. I mean, he's coming across a little bit Goldberg there, and he talks about healthy activity and so on.
You can hear Goldberg saying that.
you can, and the cricket thing with Pinter, of course, it stands out because there's always the element of the internal exile, or the outsider makes himself more British than the British. He adopts the tonality of Britishness and the British idioms and the British artifacts. And the idea about cricket, when I watched the play again, I thought it's kind of like a series of overs. It's batting and bowling. The sort of, how the power dynamics change in each dialogue.
Serve and receive.
Yes. There are sort of sallies and there are retreats, and it goes forward and back between, these two characters just in the course of this scene. On stage, it might be what we call status. The character's status goes up or down depending on where they are in the power relationship with each other. And you see it a lot here. The playful and strangely disconnected quality between them as well has that.
Yes, it does. And the obsession with the games is very notable in a lot of artists. I mean, famously, Marcel Duchamp became so obsessed with chess that he did nothing else for 40 years basically, but studied chess theory. And I think it's partly because there's a sort of, as you say, that there's an opening, but there's also a logic. Whereas with art, you often get kind of lost in the abstraction.
I mean,
perhaps, but
certainly the English have this quality about games that they like, because it has this way of managing violence. It has this formality, rules and restraints, and a certain order of the game, a procedure for playing the next round in your sort of your combat with people.
Yes. And yes, Mr. Vingle, she did just ask Stanley if he really finds her succulent.
Yeah, because it does have an onomatopoeic quality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why don't you get this place cleared up?
Feels like a naughty word.
It's a pigsty.
Yeah, Dandy Nichols, as we identify the actress, very much like that sort of Hattie Jakes kind of, Rubens-esque lady who has a sexually predatory side.
Neither of them without their admirers.
Oh,
apparently, Hattie Jakes used to receive 10 proposals of marriage letters in the post a week.
Wow. There are stories. There are stories because famously she was married to John Le Mesurier.
She was a man-eater. She was voracious. So,
he'd be downstairs and she'd be upstairs, and the ceiling would be rumbling with her liaisons.
While he was sat downstairs, high off his head on marijuana. John Le Mes.
Great days.
That partly explains why he was so vague. I think he was just always stoned, basically. So the sort of hot young stud she shacked up with later broke up with her. Basically said, "Well, I can't keep up. She's a nympho. She just doesn't stop." Yeah.
There's some quality of this that you see again in the kind of Terry Gilliam animations in the TV series Monty Python's Flying Circus, where the women are kind of brassy and kind of pneumatic, and heavy breasted and heavy hipped and so on. And there was something about that time where it wasn't like later eras of kind of fetishizing a sort of ornamental quality that was very petite and thin and it was the brassy bint was a kind of
it's
a love thing.
It's a hangover, I think, from just the Victorian ideals as well. I mean, going, the idea of those old seaside cartoons where the women are always, built that way, and all these sorts of raunchy jokes. Also, I think there's a connection between the seaside and kind of sort of raunchiness, because you're on holiday. You can get away. There's a bit more of a free spirit about it, isn't there? And it's.
But very much in English culture as well. It is the kind of, sorry to use the word, the liminal spaces, but the boundary spaces between town and country, the sort of the remote spaces, either the forests or the beach. They're places of this kind of license. The people can abandon all of this kind of neurotic struggle and agony that they have within the four walls of the nasty homes.
It's sweeping. It's papering. In a new room.
Oh, Jack. It's a lovely room. Had some lovely afternoons in that room.
Ooh.
Dark.
Big hint in that line. I've had some lovely afternoons in that room.
Lovely afternoons.
Caresses him. And this is the exterior of 7 Erriswell Road in Worthing. If you want to go and look at that street.
I love this, the awfulness of it. And of course, the sound of the jet as well.
And it looks like they've actually painted the house a bleak grey, doesn't it? It doesn't quite look as if it was actually that way. I don't know what those cars are there, but interesting.
Morris Minor, I think, on the right, not sure.
No.
Is the sun shining? What you smoking?
Cigarette.
Aren't you going to give me one?
No.
It's a great way to torture people, just asking them really obvious questions about what they're doing. This would kill me, I think.
Yeah, and even the minor torture of denying someone a cigarette. In the post-war, people were kind of gagging for cigarettes. You kind of forget how it was in a time when nobody smoked. Yeah. Oh, I could really do with a fag. That's
I like cigarettes.
the English slang fag for our Americans.
Yes.
Get away from me.
Are you going out?
Not with you.
I'm going shopping in a minute.
Go.
You'll be lonely, all by yourself.
Will I?
That's your old way. I've got to get things in for the two gentlemen.
And this is the dramatic pivot.
What two gentlemen?
Expecting visitors.
What?
Didn't know that, did you?
What are you talking about?
Two gentlemen asked Petey if they could come and stay for a couple of nights. Expecting them.
I don't believe it.
True.
Saying it on purpose.
Peter told me this morning.
When was this? When did he see them?
This morning.
Who are they?
I don't know.
Didn't he tell you their names?
No.
Here? They wanted to come here?
Yes, they did.
Why?
This house is on the list.
The list.
But
I wonder
who
if
are
Kellogg's paid for the product placement.
It's quite direct, isn't it?
Yeah. You also look at that way he caresses that light pitting there.
They
Very.
won't come.
Why not?
Tell you they won't come.
Pause for a second.
Why didn't they come last night?
Just to think about the characterization here. I mean, again, interestingly, since I've rewatched the BBC version, you know, you've got Shaw here playing it like a kind of, he's like a radical student dosser, you know, but he's got a kind of RP, received pronunciation accent, you know, flat accent, similar to what I'm speaking in now, and it kind of works when he switches between, as he's speaking now, and a kind of mocking kind of tone that he uses with Meg. When you look at the BBC version, you've got Kenneth Cranham playing the part, and he's very much got a London accented working class. So the way the characters are played and cited in these two versions is interesting. I actually, from watching it, I do actually kind of like Cranham's performance as well. I mean, I found more virtues in the BBC version since re-watching it. You know, there's a different kind of, they're played in different ways. There's different kinds of intensity, and the way Cranham plays it, the character's much more sort of, he's self-corrosive and caustic, and kind of eating himself with a sort of neurotic madness. Whereas you get the feeling that Shaw's character is perhaps someone who has come from a background, but he has collapsed into hard times over a period of years or decades even.
Yes, he does have a sort of what's you know, in John le Carre's novels, he has the thing with the circus and Control and Smiley and all that. He almost feels like a character who's run away from that in this. Robert Shaw, you know. Maybe.
That's right. Well, that's kind of a trope of the time as well, of agents who, I mean, we'll see as the story develops, but agents who kind of leave the world of espionage and retreat. I mean, obvious example is someone like Richard Burton's character in Spy Who Came In From the Cold. Yeah. And he talks about how, you know, people think spies are glamorous like James Bond, and actually they're kind of sort of seedy, low-life bastards who end up, you know, exiling themselves from that world of espionage.
They were coming.
Perhaps they couldn't find the place in the dark. It's easy to find in the dark.
They won't come. Forget all about it. A false alarm. False alarm. Where's my teeth?
I took it away. You didn't want it.
What do you mean you took it away?
I took it away.
You took it away for?
You didn't want it.
Who said I didn't want it?
You did.
Who gave you the right to take away my tea?
You would.
It's wonderful, dramatic delivery there. Who gave you the right to take away my tea? I often think about that line in isolation.
Yeah. I mean, there's something that we should say about Pinter in the way that Pinter disavowed a lot of actor process, you know, in terms of staging his plays. I mean, I'll see if I can find the quote, but he was saying that when he was talking to Nigel Dennis in the New York Review of Books, and Dennis said that his plays were simply acting exercises for actors. And he said, and Dennis said, there was nothing else to them. There was no content, just postures of actors being sad or happy. And Pinter said, actually, this was quite an interesting insight. He was quite fascinated by it. And the problem you have is when you do a Pinter play, the directors will often look at Pinter's views on psychological realism, you know, people going from one motivation to an action to another motivation to another action and so on, and building up a sense of reality. Whereas this is interesting because you see these abrupt mercurial changes in the characters, which perhaps don't often translate as psychological reality unless he's portraying somebody who is volatile and mentally ill. And you then tend to sort of make a narrative around, well, what is Stanley? Is he a kind of paranoiac? Is he a recovering alcoholic? You know, and it can be a great temptation to give a sort of psychological profile and a narrative line to why things are happening. And Pinter sort of tantalizes you by giving you elements of that, you know, elements of a backstory maybe. But then part of the nature of this play is the backstories kind of break down over the course of the play. They begin to sort of disintegrate.
Yes, and of course, it's the real tension in the play is over what you don't know rather than what you do know. And that you're constantly sort of being half told things, or things being hinted at in that way.
Yeah. Pinter talked about he's fascinated by the mistiness of the past.
Drink it.
Who do you think you're talking to?
What?
Come here.
What do you mean?
Come over here.
No.
Not enjoying the game anymore.
I want to ask you something. Come on. All right. I can ask it from here just as well. Tell me, Mrs. Bowles, when you address yourself to me, do you ever ask yourself who exactly you are talking to?
Hey! Did you enjoy your breakfast, Stan?
So she has this thing of kind
Stan?
of like a zookeeper. She kind of knows how to manage the animal aggression at times.
Yeah.
She knows it's going to come out and it's going to flare. And it's going to be frightening, but then she's able to kind of hover back into view and
Yes. And she's well aware that he's stuck here. I mean, you see the look when she went round the corner and he was just stood in front of the door. You know, he didn't storm off. He just stands there. He can't leave.
There's something about it that really reminds me, especially his face in that speech, that I don't know if you've ever seen it, but around this time, 1967, you've got The Prisoner, Patrick McGoohan.
Yes. In fact, I was rewatching it just the other day.
And that sense of the isolation of a man. He's being trapped in a place he can't escape, or if he tries to escape, it makes it worse.
It always falls apart.
And he goes through these revolutions of despair and anger and frustration, and it's kind of very reminiscent of that sense of the isolated male, who's being broken down by everything around him.
Yes.
You feel his paranoia is justifiable in The Prisoner, and even here, perhaps to some extent, you can create a psychological narrative that Stanley is under this sort of constant attack, or is he? Because as we say, his stories kind of fall apart as he tells them.
Yes.
When are you going to play the piano again? Like you used to? I used to like watching you play the piano.
Yeah, that's it. I have to say, now that you've said it, it really does remind me of The Prisoner. I can see Stanley being one of the people dumped into the island.
It's that strange quality you have in The Prisoner of it's a different thing there, because he's trapped in a kind of a sort of an idyll, a kind of a faux Mediterranean village.
Yeah.
I mean, Portmeirion, for people who haven't been there, very interesting.
Yes, in Wales.
Place.
People don't realise it's in Wales because it looks so sunny and happy.
And it's astonishing. Yeah. And yet it's the thing of it's a strange thing to describe to people. Like life appears it's a bit sort of Stepford Wives in a way. It's kind of, it's gentle, it's calm, but it's kind of got a robotic quality surrounding you, and an inescapability surrounding you as well.
And the idyllic nature of it slowly becomes just maddening and terrifying. Yeah. It's maybe Goldberg and McCann are going to take him to see Leo McKern.
I think Prisoner, from what I gather, was based on a place, I think, in Scotland during the war, where agents who were taken out of action were placed for kind of resettlement or rehabilitation. Because once, if like an SOE agent had returned or something, they would have to sort of take them and kind of ensure that they hadn't gone double. So they had to isolate them for a long time. You're here now. You can't escape. You will remain here for however many months while we debrief you and work out what's happened. Because that was a very real concern in the Cold War. You have it in James Bond books where Bond comes back from a mission and it's thought that maybe he's been brainwashed and, he has to be reconstructed by the institution.
People who know too much, have got to be dealt with.
Yeah.
You're going to play it again.
I can't, can I?
Why not?
I haven't got a piano, have I?
This thread about that he used to play the piano.
Mm.
And of course, Meg seems to know quite a lot about it.
But you wouldn't have to go away if you got a job, would you? You could play the piano on the pier.
I've been offered a job, as a matter of fact.
What?
Yes, I'm considering a job at the moment.
You're not.
Good one, too. A nightclub in Berlin.
Berlin?
Berlin. A nightclub, playing the piano. Fabulous salary and all found.
How long for?
We don't stay in Berlin. Then we go to Athens.
How long for?
Yes. Then we pay a flying visit to, what's his name?
Where?
Constantinople, Zagreb, Vladivostok. It's a round the world tour.
Did you play the piano in those places before?
Played the piano? Played the piano all over the world, all over the country. I once gave a concert.
A concert?
Yes. Good one, too. They were all there that night, every single one of them. It was a great success. Yes, a concert at Lower Edmonton.
Sort of, it's gone from the drama of crossing Eastern Europe to the
Vladivostok.
They came up to me and they told me they were grateful.
Oh, you're right there, Simon. I think.
Sorry, I had a motorbike screaming by. Interesting way this is played as well, though, because he very much. I had a period of my life where I was profoundly depressed, and I recovered, fortunately. But he's very much it's like a depressive state. The way he behaves here, this slowed down quality, that's kind of what it feels like in a way. It's with the BBC version, Kenneth Branagh, he kind of relates the story about playing the piano all over the world as a kind of fantasy he's kind of cooking up to get back at Meg, because he's irritated by it.
Building himself up.
Yeah, but with Shaw, you feel like it's like an amnesiac, kind of painfully retrieving a once valued memory, as if it was real, but it slipped through his fingers, and it becomes this melancholia, this wistfulness, sort of resigned to collapse, and he then starts to weaponize it a bit later on in this scene.
Yeah, he seems to have sort of disassociated here. It's sort of it's almost like he's in another play now. The character seems to have suddenly sort of flipped into another mode.
It's a kind of weird. You see bits of this more with Goldberg during the play later, but there's these elements of poetry and what Pinter would talk about as lyricism, which he would try to avoid, but you see it more with Goldberg. But there's this thing of we've got this setting of the provincial and the suburban despair, and it echoes very much things. I mean, it very much echoes things like the Withnail line about Vim under the sink and both bars on. Yeah, there's sort of the sense of despair on the fringes that's kind of quietly rotting.
Yes.
Champagne we had that night. A lot. My father nearly came down to hear me. Well, I dropped him a card anyway, but I don't think he could make it. No, I lost the address. That was it. Yes. Hello, Edmonton.
Oxford.
Wonder where Stanley is now.
Yes. Stained by the butter drips and crumpets.
All arranged. It was all worked out. The next concert, somewhere else it was in winter. I went down there to play, and then, when I got there, the hall was closed, the place was shuttered up, not even a caretaker. They'd locked it up. A fast one. They pulled a fast one. I'd like to know who's responsible for that. All right, Jack, I can take a tip. They want me to crawl down on my bended knees. Well, I can take a tip any day of the week.
All right, Jack, I can take a tip.
Yeah, it's
strange language.
Well, the sound just for people watching, the sound is a bit low, but what he's describing is this, whether it's a fantasy, we're not meant to know kind of thing, but it's almost like he's been a sort of world famous globe-trotting pianist. And then eventually he's played this concert in Lower Edmonton, and it's almost like he's on the run from some anti-piano mafia or something like that. He says that the next concert he plays, they've locked up the venue, so he can't even get inside. Yeah. And he's kind of relating a sort of dialogue within himself that he may have had with some sort of piano gangster. Okay, Jack, you've got me on the rocks here. And he's having to kind of back down or apologize for something. This sense of persecution that he's giving off, as if they carved me up. What does that mean? Did they ruin his career? Was he physically abused in some way? But it contributes to this sense of this weird paranoia.
Yes.
Look at her. You're just an old piece of rock cake, aren't you? That's what you are, aren't you?
Don't you go away again, Stan. You stay here. You'll be better off. You stay here with your old Meg. Oh. Did you feeling well this morning, Stan? Did you pay a visit this morning?
Well, can I warn?
What?
Have you heard the latest?
No.
I bet you have.
I haven't.
Shall I tell you?
Oh.
They're coming today.
Who?
They're coming in a van.
Who?
Do you know what they've got in that van?
What?
They've got a wheelbarrow in that van.
They haven't.
Oh, yes, they have.
You're a liar.
A big wheelbarrow. When the
Wheelbarrow.
van stops,
Yeah.
they wheel it out. They wheel it up the garden path. And then they knock at the front door.
They don't.
They're looking for someone.
They're not.
They're looking for someone. A certain person.
No, they're not.
Shall I tell you who they're looking for?
No.
You don't want me to tell you.
You're a liar.
So,
Yeah, go on.
well, so it always puts me in mind of sort of like a really menacing version of an Edward Lear song or poem, or sort of this thing about, you know, the men are going to come with a wheelbarrow and take you down the garden path. It's this bizarre sort of mashup of English idiom and sensibility. You know, the garden path. You know,
Yeah.
and the way he rings out the word wheelbarrow. You know?
Well, yeah, it creates for me this sort of this fantasy of you know, he's kind of been he's been done over by some sort of organized crime almost, and then he creates this sort of extension of the fantasy to scare her a bit, with a little bit of a thrill, but it's very like this kind of, as I say, this slightly paranoid world of the 60s of you know, there's an awareness of espionage and the Cold War, but there's also this element of violence on the streets as well. I mean, I was thinking there of, you had things like, you know, the Cray twins and the Richardsons in London, and these kind of stories about how they kind of operated out of domestic properties, and the way that, you know, people were smuggled around. I mean, famously, there was one of the Cray gang, Mad Frankie Mitchell, who kind of disappeared. You know, he was sort of he had to be got rid of, and he was kind of smuggled to some house somewhere, you know, to stay, and then eventually, you know, the gang comes and picks him up, and you know, I think they shot him in the back of the van and, you know, dissolved his body in acid, or, you know, chopped it up and chucked it in the river or something like that. It was kind of a horrific ending, but there was this sense of these things happening where criminals were out there and they were coming for you. There was this potential danger sort of snaking its way through the streets towards your life, and I think that kind of echoed. I mean, the Frankie Mitchell case was only a couple of years before this film, so it's kind of there in people's awareness that there's this, you know, the streets are kind of dangerous in a way, but there's also more danger lurking on the inside in these seemingly innocent terraced houses. You know, these run down, you know, kind of you know, they're both you know, they're both domestic safety, but also you know, a sense of danger, containment, and claustrophobia as well.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Bowes, it's come. Oh, yes, what, is that it? Yes, I thought I'd bring it round. Nice. Very nice. What should I do with it? Well, of course not. All right. Wow. It's time, Mrs. Bowes. Oh, hello. I just want to leave this in here.
Do. A bulky object.
Not to touch it.
How would I want to touch it?
Well, you're not to, anyway. Open the door. Stuffy.
Stuffy? I disinfected the place this morning.
You're a bit of a washout, aren't you?
I always like the rather brutal way she it leaves the scene there. You're a washout, aren't you?
They've somewhat abbreviated the scene from
Yes.
the play. Of course, she has a bit of a longer dialogue where he flirts with her and says, "Why don't we go away together?"
Well, she also tries to get him to come out with her.
Yeah, that's right.
She seems to want to make some sort of connection there. She offers him sandwiches but of course he, oddly, despite the fact that he says he also wants to run away with her, sort of turns her down.
Yeah.
And, decides to stay.
And there's often this element throughout the play. You see it when, later on we'll come to the sort of the scenes between him and Goldberg and McCann. The sense in which at any time he could just walk out the door, but he doesn't.
Yes, there is nothing physically keeping him here.
Yeah.
But I think perhaps other than the sense that this is probably the end of the road, there isn't really any point in.
There is that, and for me, there's also though a sense of that the English often internalize their own entrapment in a way because it's familiar. It feels familiar. It's horrible, but the big bad world outside is worse. So I'll stay with the horrible at home. My husband beats me, but it feels familiar, so I'll stay.
But at least there's a husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually quite an oddly truncated scene there because she's in for literally a few seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a pacing thing or. Did you see the soap covered in little brown flecks there? What looked like tea or something? Yeah,
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, horrible. Stuck to it.
It's like everything is kind of stained, isn't it? And decayed.
Here we are.
Even the bell has a sinister quality, doesn't it?
Knock, knock, Stanley. The two silhouettes are wonderful.
Yeah. So it's interesting. From the point of view of this film, Friedkin talks about. He says there's not much cinematic about the play, but obviously Friedkin does try to shift the sense of the camera around as a presence. You've got a kind of spider's eye view from the ceiling here.
Yes, but you're always kind of stuck in the
corner like this. You're in the room with everything. But it feels like you're hidden or you're hiding or snooping.
So here we have Goldberg and McCann entering with their sort of back and forth dialogue.
And we should say these are great characters.
Yes. Goldberg, obviously a Jew, and McCann, an Irishman, which was a deliberate choice by Pinter. He said that he wanted to pick men of races which both have a great sense of tradition and a great sense of being oppressed.
Because if you think about it, and I thought about this myself, I thought, why in particular, obviously the Jewish character, you think, well, that relates to Pinter internally. He has something that he wants to project there, but you think, well, why isn't the other guy, for example, if they're sort of avatars of a kind of religious tradition, why isn't the other guy a Protestant? And of course, as you say, Roman Catholic, much more useful. Pinter can see that as kind of another marginalized group that he can use then for creating aggression, violence, and tension.
Yes. And they automatically, just by opening their mouths, they feel slightly out of place in this setting. They don't fit with this sort of demotic English world, and of course, because both characters will give kind of great kind of flying monologues on the nature of some sort of tradition or upbringing or memory, which of course, being a Catholic or a Jew, in these ways will, it kind of lends itself to that. As people will see.
We should probably say a couple of words about these particular actors as well. On the left as McCann, Patrick McGee, who people will recognize as the writer in Clockwork Orange.
Worked with Kubrick in many of his films.
He was in Barry Lyndon as the what's the name of the
Chevalier du Bali Barry.
That's it.
Who's a fraud who goes around cheating.
Barry's mentor, the card sharp, and he was he was kind of in a way one of these criminally forgotten actors in a sense, because he died in 1982, but he had an intensity and a ferocity about his persona and he's kind of perfect for this sort of role. The other chap playing Goldberg is Sidney Taffler, character actor, and he was a good mate of Sid James, apparently. Of the
yes,
Carry On
that's
fame.
right. Also with Jewish stock, I think Sid James.
Indeed, yeah. And
born in South Africa.
If you've ever want to see interesting pop up of him, he's in a TV series called Survivors from the 70s. Which is about a Britain that has gone post-apocalyptic. A virus has killed everybody except a handful of people who've got a resistance to it. And he features in a couple of episodes as the despotic governor of a hospital in London, which is being used as a kind of power base and a refuge for fairly wicked people like him.
Yes.
And he features in that, pops up there interestingly.
And we should probably say, we were talking about the kind of old school rep and character acting traditions of Britain. There is a kind of sub end to that tradition of the kind of Jewish character actor, where there's a kind of type. So it was Sidney Taffler was a notable one, and of course Alfie Bass, who, if people have seen Are You Being Served, is one of the Jewish. He's a Jewish replacement shopkeeper, isn't he? For one of the actors died, and they had a kind of a rotating character. And it's funny because they always kind of play up to stereotypes, really, as part of the character. It's a certain type of sort of East End Jew that you don't really see now.
Well, exactly. It's the kind of thing of the accenting that becomes something you can very easily kind of parody. It's a kind of thing that the sort of 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and people who were in professions like showbiz agents and producers at television companies, people like Lou Grade and Sid Goldstein, they came from, and there was very much this sense of they came from these rough working class backgrounds and worked their way up entrepreneurially, and had a kind of purchase on, if you like, popularity in terms of entertainment. They could kind of identify winners and losers, so to speak, or they could kind of pump them up, let's say, and put them into the market and have an interesting kind of mesh of genres which they could manipulate very successfully in those positions. So you see it in there was a few years ago, the Beatles film, where they took the sessions where they were recording. Which album was it? I can't remember. Was it Let It Be? Anyway, but they took the footage of that where the Beatles were working in the studio and down at Apple in central London, and of course one guy who comes on very early in one of the episodes is a song agent, who's coming to chat with Paul McCartney about, he's bought the back catalogue of Northern songs, and would Paul like to consider, doing an arrangement of how much is this doggy in the window, he
probably would have done, knowing.
Yeah, and he's very much that kind of archetype, that kind of lovely, it's wonderful, that kind of thing, and it's something that becomes in entertainment, as a character sort of archetype. It's very kind of fulsomely expressed here, and there isn't any kind of nervous tension about it, as there would be now. Is you're just doing a stereotype, of how people in the sort of the Jewish sector of London talk and present themselves. But there's kind of something enjoyable about it, if I can put it that way, in the sense of it's not held in as it is now. It's there as a kind of heritage piece of an ethnicity that was somewhat integrated into British life, but had a sort of a functional kind of place in the culture,
Yes, and I think
culture.
In the Michael Billington biography, he sort of it's sort of half inferred by stuff Pinter actually says to him, and part speculated, that Pinter would have known, dozens of Goldbergs growing up in the Jewish parts of Hackney in the East End, and he says that the kind of there's an inanity to the character where they're constantly spouting kind of platitudes and empty kind of shop front window speeches about how you got to have your traditions, and you got to do this, you got to have this morality and that morality, all sort of. And I think probably someone like Pinter probably grew up and just found that maddening, with people just kind of people kind of just seeing life in a blind way through the remnants of a tradition, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
Kind of you have to do it just because you have to do it, but it's not anything really substantial. It's just kind of cod morality from another age. It's not you know, some great wisdom. As we'll see, you know, Goldberg's character launches into that almost immediately.
Yeah, just to address the comment in the chat, you know, what should it be? Should it be something completely detached from reality? I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying, is that it wouldn't be something now that, you know, you wouldn't present, you know, let's say a British Jewish quote stereotype on television as a character, yeah, because the person would be, as it were, quote, normalized to be, you know, all of that kind of vocal accent and affect would be flattened into something it's you know, just like everybody else. There wouldn't be any of those distinguishing kind of marks that you have when you see someone like Tafler, where he very much embodies that that, you know, that manner and that presentation, you know, of its time, and now no longer, especially as London, you know, demographically has changed and been supplanted, and, you know, is now fashioned differently, and people don't carry forth, if you like, those kind of herited, you know, traditions of how they interact.
Yes, and you notice, of course, that there's the Yiddish word spiel, and I think in a literal sense, Goldberg is a master of spiel, right? And it's you can see this in portrayals of Jews going all the way back to Dickens. You know, the idea of the Jew with the spiel, who can just talk. They just kind of talk, and it's almost a kind of way of life. It's a way to get by. You know, you kind of diffuse things with just fountains of spiel, which, you know, and it's kind of, because, you know, that word is kind of entered idiomatic usage. But if you think about the literal meaning of it as well, it's quite an interesting character trait. You know, and I almost wonder if it's, you know, part of a sort of almost an inner anxiety, you know, kind of nervousness that you have to just keep talking, you know, to kind of stop things happening.
I think Pinter talks about this in the interviews. I can't recall the quote that I was reading about it, but I think, yeah, he does talk about that kind of volubility as a kind of defense mechanism socially, as a kind of way of establishing and you know, stabilizing yourself, you know, with the Irish, we'd say, you know, oh, it's the gift of the gab. You know,
yes,
but, you know, this is another thing of a kind of a showbiz presentational persona that you bring on. I mean, Goldberg is very much a kind of upbeat character. You know, you've got to see the optimism in everything. You know, and sorry, I slightly did it there. I know, but
yeah,
you know,
the cadence,
yeah. But again, it's sort of an archaism now as well. You don't really encounter it so much, unless you've lived in London and, you know, you're sensitive to it and you pick it up, and some areas you might, but not so much.
Well, I mean, as we talked about before, something, I was once in a production of this, and I played Mr. Goldberg, and the hardest thing, other than the rapid dialogue, was the cadence, because I didn't know anybody I've never known anybody that actually talked like that. You know, it's a very odd way to speak if you can't do it intuitively. It's a strange. It's not even really an accent. It's literally, you have to kind of you have to hit the syllables and the vowels in a certain way.
Yeah.
What now? Don't worry yourself, McCann. Take a seat. What about you? What about me? What are you going to take a seat? We'll both take a seat.
The cool Goldberg, of course, and the extremely agitated McCann, you know, nervous.
Sit back, McCann. Relax. What's the matter with you? I'll bring you down for a few days to the seaside. Take a holiday. Do yourself a favor. Learn to relax, McCann. You'll never get anywhere.
Sure, I do try not.
The secret is breathing. Take my tip. It's a well-known fact. Breathe in. Breathe out.
Ride the tiger, McCann.
Take a chance. Let yourself go. What can you lose? Look at me. When I was an apprentice yet, McCann,
here we
every
go.
second Friday of the month, my Uncle Barney used to take me to the seaside. Regular as clockwork. Brighton, Canvey Island, Rottingdean. Uncle Barney wasn't particular.
Canvey Island,
yeah.
After lunch on Shabbos, we'd go and sit in a couple of deck chairs. You know, the ones with canopies. We'd have a little paddle. We'd watch the tide coming in, going out, the sun coming down. Golden days, believe me, McCann. Uncle Barney. Of course, he was an impeccable dresser, one of the old school. He had a house just outside Basingstoke at the time, respected by the whole community. Culture? Don't talk to me about culture. He was an all-round man. What do you mean? He was a cosmopolitan.
Oh.
My lad.
Yes. One of the old school.
How do we know this is the right house?
What makes you think it's the wrong house?
I didn't see a number on the gate.
I wasn't looking for a number.
No? What about just now? Isn't it about time somebody came in?
McCann, what are you so nervous about? Pull yourself together. Everywhere you go these days, it's like a funeral.
That's true.
True? Of course it's true. It's more than true. It's a fact.
You may be right.
What is it, McCann? You don't trust me like you did in the old days?
Sure, I trust you now.
Well, then why is it before you do a job, you're all over the place? And when you're doing the job, you're as cool as a whistle.
I don't know, Nat. I'm all right once I know what I'm doing. When I know what I'm doing, I'm all right.
We do it very well.
Thank you, Nat.
Pause
You
there.
know what I said with this?
There's something, it'll come up later, but, you know, there's it's often been referred to, I think, Pinter's writing as a kind of struggle of ontological security. And what he's talking about there, I mean, it's almost very reminiscent of, I mean, Tom Stoppard a couple of years before this has done Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, where you've got these opening scenes of these two side characters from Hamlet sort of questioning their purpose. Why are we here? What are we doing? What is all this about? And you've got a little bit of a game reflecting that here, that, you know, McCann, you get the sense maybe he's an expert, tough guy, you know, a standover guy, as they say in the mafia, standover man. He's there to do the tough stuff, and Goldberg has got kind of more boss energy. And
he's the thinker.
And McCann frets about he's nervous before the job, but Goldberg said, but you always execute the job perfectly. What's wrong? You know, and as he says there, you know, when I know what I'm doing, I'm all right. You know.
Yes, very much. I think, you're right with the ontological anxiety. Yeah, it's you know, where am I going? What am I doing?
This is again alluding to what I said at the beginning. It's very much in the air at the time in the 50s when the play's written. You're in the decline of empire phase. You know, there's a growing consciousness of the shift of power away from Britain. Obviously, things like Suez show it up in a really humiliating way, and also the sense, obviously, of domestic identity kind of changing. You know, while there's the sort of promise of bits of modernity coming in, you know, like in the US, you've got the kind of the lifestyle conveniences, if you like, the elements of technology coming in. You've got the sense in which the ground under people's feet is changing socially as well, as we know, in places and in ways which are not always comfortable. And so this sense of who am I is obviously, you know, it's in the air.
Yes.
Job came up. I mean, naturally, they approached me to take care of it. You know who I asked for?
Who? was very good of you, Nat.
I was nothing. You're a capable man, McCann.
That's a great compliment, Nat, coming from a man in your position.
I've got a position, I won't deny it.
You certainly have.
I would never deny that I had a position.
And what a position.
It's not a thing I would deny.
It's true you've done a lot for me. I appreciate it.
Say no more.
You've always been a true Christian.
Great line.
Yeah, it's a wonderful line, isn't it? And I love the little second of the reaction there.
And look at that line when he does it in the BBC version. The way Pinter handles it, playing this part.
Yeah.
And as we were saying, we were chatting before the stream. Pinter's portrayal. Actually, I see it now. It does have a different quality from. And the way they I mean, in the BBC, Pinter's playing Goldberg, Colin Blakely is playing McCann. It's a different dynamic, and one, as you said, it's more humorous. It's kind of warmer. The jokes land better. This is more icy and slightly disconnected, and McCann kind of has to sort of struggle for himself somewhat. Tafler's Goldberg is trying to kind of boost him a bit, but when it comes to this sort of moment in the BBC one, have a look at the way Pinter sort of manages that line about you're a true Christian. He kind of he gets quite uncomfortable and shrugs in the way he has to shrug it off. It's almost like he gives him a threatening look.
Yes, yeah, and also the kind of confidence that Goldberg radiates. It seems to be that kind of classic narcissistic thing of he's got himself into a position where there's somebody less confident who will constantly throw compliments and praise at him, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, the whole kind of he sort of feeds McCann a few compliments, and of course McCann is so grateful. He go, oh well, I'm so grateful for that. For a man in your position, and of course, well, I wouldn't deny I've got a position. It's it's a kind of, as you say, the ontological anxiety is reassuring himself, because as we'll see later in the play, Goldberg is quite fragile. He has his breaking points.
Exactly.
For knowing what he is or what he does.
Exactly, and this is the crux for me of the comment I had about when we did the deepest law, and I said I preferred Tafler. As I say, he's got this held-in quality. He's got this. He's obviously a diplomatic Goldberg. And the Pinter version of Goldberg is, and because of Pinter's physicality, he comes across as just more directly thuggish.
Yes,
which
he has a stage villain personality to him in that one,
and it works nicely. But it's just
does.
It's the extent to which Tafler kind of takes all the slings and arrows that get thrown at the character, and he tries to be pleasant. He obviously breaks at a certain point, and then we get a great scene.
Yeah, there's a limit to his constant self-reliance on tradition and memory, and good old Uncle Barney.
Yeah, well, that lyricism is something Pinter, as I said, very conscious of, and when he was doing, I think it was The Caretaker, he talked about Beckett, had a look at it, and said, "Oh, there's this speech you've got in it. It's kind of a bit much. It doesn't work." And Pinter was kind of a bit confused, and he reflected on it later when he was mounting the play with Sir Peter Hall, and he heard the speech again. He said, "Oh yes, it kind of doesn't work." And he said, he was asked why, and he said, "Well, it just kind of went over the top in lyricism. He felt it was indulgent and illegitimate," he said. So there's elements where Goldberg lapses into these moments of lyrical nostalgia, but then Pinter has to kind of rein it back in a bit, because if it goes too far, to him it's dishonest. It's honest in a way for the character. He is kind of indulgent and distant in a way, but for the drama, Pinter sort of reins back too much purple prose and poetry.
Yes, and of course, I think the Goldberg character is an attempt to basically dismantle that sort of high-flying lyricism. I mean, and the idea of somebody who's very consciously using it as a crutch. I mean, there's a kind of parallel. I mean, anyone that's been around on the sort of right-wing circles knows that people. Some people love what they call biscuit tin nationalism. And it always puts me in mind of this character, really kind of high-flying monologues about this aspect or that aspect, and how good it could be. And it's sort of, well, it's it's, as you say, it's a kind of anodyne for that sort of dread and anxiety of not knowing where you are, not knowing the future, really. And it is there is a cowardice to it. It's what AA talks about. You go into any newsagents and there'll still be that bumper magazine pack about the 60s and the Beatles, and it's kind of this endless, back in the day sort of
I think that is something, as you say, that struggle with on the right, because there is a danger in too much sentimentalism about, on the one hand, the left always uses the past as a kind of j'accuse, look at all these things, these bad things. And the contrary reactive right tends to say, well, now we're going to sort of celebrate the past, but it can become maudlin, and it can become actually, what I'm saying is cheapened by the biscuit tin.
It becomes a failure to engage with the past in the real sense, and it just ends up being reliance on motif, and kind of vaguely happy memory.
And it can end up on that journey becoming cliche, and it can become kind of disposable in a sense. And I mean, that word disposable has been very charged in recent days, but you know what I mean. And what Pinter says about this lyricism, he says, what I'm interested in is emotion which is contained and felt very, very deeply.
In a way.
No, I just thought that I'd tell you that I appreciate it.
It is unnecessary to recapitulate.
You're right there.
Quite unnecessary.
Hey, now, just one thing.
What now?
This job. No, listen. This job. Is it going to be like anything we've ever done before? No, just tell me that. Just that, and I won't ask any more.
The main issue is a singular issue and quite distinct from your previous work. Certain elements, however, might well approximate in points of procedure to some of your other activities. All is dependent on the attitude of our subject. At all events, I can assure you, McCann,
it's like a
assignment will be
scientific
carried out, a mission accomplished, with no excessive
scientific mission statement there. All depends on the attitude of the subject. It's almost like a safety warning on an airplane as well.
Yeah, it just blasts him with this, thing about, what the hell does any of this mean?
It's like he's trying to program a robot, saying, these are your prime directives. This is what you have to do, because McCann is in quite a distressed state about this job.
Yeah, clearly.
It's going to be as bad as before when I had to chop somebody up with an axe and then feed them to the ducks. I mean, whatever he had to do in this previous
to you
game.
Or myself. Satisfied?
Sure.
Sure.
He's not really reassured, is he?
No.
Mrs. Bowles?
Yes?
We spoke to your husband this morning. Perhaps he mentioned it. We hear that you kindly...
I think there was a great little thing there where the look of utter blank stupidity on her face.
Yeah.
Where it tells you something, because the instinct would surely be to kind of do a basic action of sort of, either who are you, or obviously these are the two men that said they were coming. She just comes in and looks gormless.
Yeah.
It tells so much about who Meg is, totally gormless.
And I mean, there's something about the way that doorway is used in this film as well, where people appear in the doorway before entering the room. I can't quite sort of pin what it is, but it is this kind of limbo or this stasis. They only kind of activate and become real when they come into the room. It's adding to this sense of everything outside is kind of static and dead. Like the shots of the town that we see, before and at the end of the film. That the whatever life is going on is going in this contained domestic environment, but it's the violence contained within it, even if it's not physical violence. It's emotionally violent.
Let rooms for gentlemen, so I brought my friend along with me. We're after a nice place, you understand, so we came to you. I am Mr. Goldberg. This is Mr. McCann.
Very pleased to meet you.
Oh, we're pleased to meet you, too.
That's very nice.
How often do you meet someone it's a pleasure to meet?
Never.
But today is different. How are you keeping, Mrs. Bowles?
Oh, very well, thank you.
Yes, really?
Oh, yes, really.
Well. So, you could manage to put us up, eh, Mrs. Bowles?
Well, that would have been easier last week.
Why? How many you got here at the moment?
Oh, just one at the moment.
Just one.
Yes, just one. Till you came.
And your husband, of course.
Yes, but he sleeps with me.
What does he do, your husband?
He's a deck chair attendant.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, he's out in all weathers.
Of course. And your guest? Your man?
Huh?
Or a woman?
No, man.
Been here long?
He's been here about a year now.
Oh, yeah.
As just that shot there of McCann's always stood out to me, because obviously it's totally filmic. You know, there's no indication of that in the play.
But
there's a sort of melancholy. You know, it's just a brief moment of sadness there for
it's a feeling about. I think to me, it's like Stanley looking out the window earlier and then going out the front door. This feeling of the imminence of escape.
Yes, and just where the hell are we? You know, kind of sense.
Yeah.
Yes, a resident. What's his name?
Stanley Webber.
Oh, yes. Does he work here?
He used to work. He used to be a pianist in a concert party on the pier.
Oh, yes. On the pier, eh? Does he play a nice piano?
Oh, lovely. He once gave a concert
Oh, where?
in a big hall. His father gave him champagne. But then they locked the place up and he couldn't get out. The caretaker had gone home, so he had to wait for the morning before he could get out. They were very grateful. And then they all wanted to give him a tip. And so he took the tip, and then he got a fast train, and he came down here.
Pause a second. I would just say, a friend of mine who I mentioned we were watching this, and he said, I always watch this film in conjunction with the film of The Caretaker. I don't know why. I haven't seen that one, but he says they kind of go together in a way. I don't know how.
Caretaker is really bleak. I mean, it's just,
yeah. I'm not sure if they inform each other. I mean, I don't think with Pinter you're not going to get any kind of literal informing of the character, but there's a sort of relation in his mind. My friend who mentioned it, it's a bit like in the way we talked about The Prisoner earlier. There was a preceding series that Patrick McGowan was in called Danger Man, where he played, a secret agent. The secret agent who at the beginning of The Prisoner quits his job, or is it the same secret agent? So there's always this sense of an echo between the works somehow.
Yes. And just Meg's completely scrambled retelling there of Stanley's
in a big
story
hall.
about playing the piano in a big hall. And then they locked it up and he couldn't get out. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yes, straight down. Wish he could have played tonight.
Why tonight?
It's his birthday today.
His birthday.
Yes, today. But I'm not going to tell him till tonight.
Doesn't he know it's his birthday?
He hasn't mentioned it.
Tell me, are you going to have a party?
Party?
Weren't you going to have one?
Oh.
Of course you must have one. We'll have a party, eh? What do you say?
Oh, yes.
Sure, we'll give him a party. You leave it to me.
Oh, that's wonderful, Mr.
Berg.
Berg.
You like the idea?
Oh, I'm so glad you came today.
If we hadn't come today, we'd have come tomorrow. Still, I'm glad we came today.
If we hadn't come today, we'd have come tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean,
it's such a wonderful, sinister thing to say.
Exactly. Well, there's always this sense of, again, the men coming to visit. When are they going to come? What's the sinister predestination? But that thing of that's another thing about talking about English interactions here, because I do feel there is it is very much an anatomy of a kind of dysfunctional English sociality that you have these interactions with people where you kind of get soft coerced into doing things and agreeing to things, and maybe you'd never thought of a party, or maybe you had thought of a party and you don't want to have a party, but somebody gins up the thing of let's do this, and everybody kind of
now
feels
there's no way out. There's no way out now. That's it. That is how you get people to do things here. Yeah.
It's like getting academic agent to come out and have a drink or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
You have to do it very carefully and subtly.
You have to use a Goldbergian skill in rhetoric to get him to come anywhere.
Yeah. But I mean
Just in time for his birthday.
I was just going to say that's the basis, though, of a lot of English comedy, of the discomfort of comedy of manners, the comedy of embarrassment. Whether it's Faulty Towers or The Office, that the expectation of a behaviour that isn't really felt, but kind of has to happen for story purposes, but then complications ensue from it. So that feels a little bit like the claustrophobic nature of English life sometimes, with the way people socialise.
I wanted to have a party, but you must have people for a party.
And now you've got McCann and me. McCann's the life and soul of any party.
Well,
what do you think of that, McCann? There's a gentleman living here. He's got a birthday today and he's forgotten all about it. So we're going to remind him. We're going to give him a party.
oh, is that a fact?
Tonight,
Tonight.
I'll put on my party dress.
And I'll get some bottles.
And I'll invite Lulu this afternoon. Oh, this is going to cheer Stanley up. It will. He's been down in the dumps lately.
We'll bring him out of himself.
I hope I look nice in my dress.
Madam, you'll look like a tulip.
What colour?
I'll have to see the dress first.
But I go up to my room.
I put you both together. Do you mind being both together?
I don't mind. Do you mind, McCann?
No?
What time shall we have the party?
9 o'clock.
Is this the way?
I'll show you. If you don't mind coming upstairs.
With a tulip, it's a pleasure.
Huh?
What a lovely flight of stairs.
Are they steep?
Steve, they're beautiful. And look at the wallpaper.
You like the wallpaper?
Lovely
I've never
flight
seen
of
such
stairs.
wallpaper.
Just
You know what?
nonsense
It's out.
communication.
Just well, it's sort of buttering her up, isn't it? Because he immediately got the sense that this is going to work.
And
What a
there's
flight
always
of stairs, lovely wallpaper.
and there's always a kind of undertow of a tension about intimacy there. The thing of, are you okay being in the same room together? Obviously there's no question of anything sort of sexual or anything like that, but there's always this sense of, are you okay to be in the same space? Tightly.
Can I put you in?
The way that this film concentrates on space and the sort of awkwardness of intimacy with people, even in a social sense.
Yes. And of course, it's the strange mixture between the temporary and the permanent, because of course it's meant to be a boarding house.
Yeah.
It's meant to be somewhere you stay. And of course, Stanley is just stuck there forever.
Yeah.
He just never leaves. He can't leave. It's like you ever see the Ben Wheatley film Kill List?
Yes.
Where they're all the horrifying shots where they're in this travel lodge sort of type hotel is the horror of the transient place.
Well, we can get really big and go like it's The Shining, isn't it? It's you've always been here, and it's like it's even like TV comedy like Spaced, where Marsha, the strange landlord, says, "I hope you never leave."
Yeah, that's right.
That's kind of a trope of despair in the sort of suburban of you can never get out. You can never, like the way the TV sitcoms like Steptoe and Son is always the tension between the character, young guy who wants to leave and is always trapped by the other guy.
Yeah. And it's sort of almost in a very Goldberg-like way, the older character in Steptoe always insists that, well, no, your being is you are a dustman, and that's all you'll ever be. That's all you can be. And he, of course, he's completely come to, he's got no problem with that. The older one just accepts it, doesn't he? That's just what he is.
And this is the crisis of modernity, breaking out of the great chain of being, breaking out of your place in the hierarchy, and being able to thrive is conflated with a sense of entrapment.
And of course, it's a double-edged sword, because once you break out of the chain of being, then what are you? Then you have to come up with your own box, if you like.
Yeah.
Real cozy feeling about this house.
It's cozy.
I bet you're a balabuster.
What?
Is this the room?
It sounds a little bit like Ballbuster as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You think
Balabuster.
It's 100%
Again, another
perfection.
strange, isolating shot.
Who is it?
2 gentlemen.
What 2 gentlemen?
The ones that were coming. I just took them to their room. They were thrilled with their room.
They've come.
They've very nice, Stan.
Why didn't they come last night?
They said the beds were wonderful.
Who are they?
They're very nice, Stan.
I said, who are they?
I told you, the two gentlemen.
I didn't think they'd come.
They have. They were here when I came in.
What do they want here?
They want to stay.
How long for?
They didn't say.
But why here? Why not somewhere else?
This house is on the list.
What are they called? What are their names?
Oh, Stanley, I can't remember.
They told you, didn't they? Or didn't they tell you?
Yes, they...
Then what are they? Come on, try to remember.
Why, Stan, do you know them?
How do I know if I know them until I know their names?
Well, told me, I remember.
Well,
Gold something.
gold something?
Yes, Gold...
Yes?
Goldberg. That's right, that was one of them. You know them? Stan, they won't wake you up, I promise. I'll tell them they must be quiet.
See, the way it's
They
played
won't be
there,
long, Stan.
it undermines that sense that you know, Stanley's built up this paranoid expectation that these people he knows are coming for him, but when he has that confusion, she says the name Goldberg, he clearly doesn't know who it is.
Do you think that's the case? He doesn't, or is it a case of sort of despair of, oh God, you know?
Well, that's how I read it. Yeah, because if he knew, I think you might have seen a different reaction. If he was absolutely could have walked out the door, but actually it was a sense of, was that the name of the man who was after me? You know, in the constructed narrative,
I can't remember.
You know.
Yes. No, I think, and of course because later on there is sort of there isn't really a sense that they've ever met before. It's just kind of this blank force that appears in his life.
And it has, I think Pinter's conscious of the sense that we are trying to construct narratives. We're looking for Stanley to recognize the name and to go, oh, it's Goldberg. I've got to get out of here, or whatever. You know, these people who've done him over in the past that's suggested by the early speeches. But then it breaks down as it's happening and he's not certain. Okay.
It's also a great shot here through the hatch. Stanley framed there, you know,
frame within the frame. Yeah.
I still bring you up your early morning tea. You mustn't be sad today. It's your birthday. It's your birthday, Stan. I was going to keep it a secret until tonight.
No.
It is. I brought you a present. Here. Go on. Open it.
What's this?
It's your present.
It's even more absurd, you know. This is your birthday.
It is.
Yeah.
Of course, it's your birthday.
And this is one of the central tensions, isn't it? The idea that he doesn't know, he has to be told these things, or does he know and he's avoiding it, or is he?
Or is she just being batty and you know she just got it into her head that it's his birthday? You know?
Yeah. There's a killer line coming here in terms of what this represents. You know,
it's a drum. Boy's drum.
Because you haven't got a piano.
Because you haven't got a piano.
Because
you're useless. This is kind of what she's saying.
Bought you a child's drum.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to give me a kiss?
Something a little bit Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf here as well, you know, where she's the Elizabeth Taylor character saying to Richard Burton, you know, give your mummy a big sloppy kiss.
Yeah, this is the sinister aspect of the kind of mother figure, isn't it? You know, and then she's bought him a child's toy, and now he's got to say thank you. So it's horrible. It's really, really sinister. This whole setup.
Mm. It's a kind of Oedipus in the ashes.
Of course he does.
Yeah. On the lips here.
Yeah.
But sufficiently ambiguous to be maternal on the lips. Or in the BBC one, it's definitely on the cheek. So it's always going to be like a Hamlet Gertrude moment of tension, isn't it? How it's played, what it's going to say.
Shall I put it round my neck?
He seems to he veers between completely surrendering to the absurdity and the kind of sinisternness, and also trying to fight it, as we see later. There's this constant tension between desperately trying to resist and just saying, what the hell? What's the point? And I think it's very reflective of life, really, isn't it? Because what can you do?
Yeah. You get what you're given, and then he's gonna transform it into a moment of rebellion, isn't he?
Yes.
Or of suppressed rage,
sheer frustration.
I always do that when my mum gives me a birthday present. Yeah.
So that is in the script. That's the end of Act 1. And so in the stage directions it says now cut to evening. This is now much later in the day.
See, there's this discovery through the door again. And because it's Pinter, the way that sound comes through the silence is like this. You got this. I mean, in a minute, Stanley will open the curtains. It's like a kind of another sonic echo of the tearing. These sort of jagged kinds of things that contrast with the drum, but it's a slower, more threatening, regular sound, like a sort of machinic repetition that you have. I found it funny. Before we came on, I found this, it was quite infectious, this production, because I found before I came on, I was actually, while we were backstage, I was clipping my nails, and I was doing it with the same like McCann kind of intensity.
Yeah, the sheer concentration.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought it'd be nice if there was an edit where he's sort of painting a Warhammer figure or something. Because that's the sort of face people have when they're doing something of that scale.
Ferocious concentration.
And of course, this is the noise that we hear in the introduction over the car driving. It's kind of a motif, and of course because it's such a pointless activity.
Yeah, I wondered if that bit of
point-
newspaper he was tearing, the picture and the headline on it, was meant to be a little bit of a message there, because
Maybe
it read
unity.
"Unity is still sought." Yeah.
And of course it's being ripped up.
Mhm.
It's very and it's the ontological anxiety. It's sort of, he's almost doing it just so he has something he has to do.
Yeah.
He's got
Yeah.
something to concentrate on this hard, which even though it's completely pointless.
Yeah, this is a kind of mystery, and again, one of the problems of this psychological determinism for an actor of what you do when you play a character. You're going to look to find a reason why to play this, and yet Pinter kind of is about defying sort of ordinary ideas of motive in behavior. These things which you could read them as symbolic acts in a certain way, but psychologically they're difficult to rationalize and justify, other than you could say, well, he's got like an obsessive compulsive disorder now. We would tend to medicalize it and give it a reading which was, again, congruent with the idea of human psychology, because that's the frame we exist in. That's not necessarily what Pinter's doing. And
No.
I mean, if there's reasons, anyone in the chat knows a reason why he has this obsessive vertical tearing of the newspaper. Maybe it's something about the deconstruction of a story that it's a reference to. I don't know.
I think it's just pure bloody-minded destruction for the sake of it, really.
Yeah. I mean, he's a nutter, this character.
He is, clearly. But so is everyone in this. Works by degrees, I suppose.
Yeah.
Evening.
Just to add, I also like the way that Goldberg and McCann just occupy the house. They don't really do anything. They don't have a sense of urgency about anything they're here to do. They just sit.
Yeah.
They're just in the space. So Stanley's trapped up against that wall. You can't go in and mope around or go to the kitchen. McCann's just sat there.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what I read in Pinter is, like I said, about the sort of jobs he did, these lonely jobs. It's about this kind of surly presence.
Very warm tonight. Someone out there?
People with misophonia going crazy in the chat right now.
Oh God, I bet they are.
Agonizing tearing.
It's meant to be. But,
I might do this one day to annoy someone.
yeah, maybe it's really fun. It just
It's got therapeutic quality, I suppose.
yeah. You notice how McCann not only controls the space but also the whole room because of the noise.
Yeah,
right? He's sort of
exactly.
dominating everything here.
Yeah. I mean, that in a way is an actor's exercise. This concept of status on a stage, the high status characters, the kings, or they are, the idea of status is people who take up more time and more space on the stage. So it's the classic thing of, why does the guy on the stage look like a king? It's because everybody else makes space for him and treats him in a certain way. And the lower status characters are the ones who take up less space and less time. So they're always kind of, scurrying around. In the classic actor's exercise of status is you have three actors, one plays a lord and two actors play butlers who are dressing the lord. And you see the lord stand still and is dressed, and he's entitled and he's taking his time. And the two kind of, the two butlers are sort of racing around to get him dressed. And that's a kind of illustration of the idea of status, and he's dominating the space by his quietness, his stillness, his focus, his intensity, and his control of, even as you say, sound in the space.
Yes.
don't think we've met.
No, we haven't.
My name's McCann.
You see the way McCann appears to just sort of teleport there. he just,
Yeah.
he just winks into existence. You know?
Yeah, some nifty footwork.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, very deft.
Been here long?
Not long. What's your name?
Weber.
Oh, I'm glad to meet you, sir. Many happy returns of the day.
so remember I said at the start, there's this in post-war theatre, you know, earlier you've got the kind of the politesse of the drawing room dramas of the Cowarian kind of variety.
Yeah, Rattigan.
And the dialogues are kind of all sweet nothings and platitudes. I mean, they're designed to reveal things, but what Pinter's doing is kind of transplanting the sort of the ordered and genteel nature of ordinary dialogue. You know, you here for long? What are you doing? Oh, what's your name? Hello, nice to meet you. But he's doing it in a way where it's completely reframed as conflict. You know, it's characters delivering swings and parries in a fight that hasn't been announced, but it has started.
Yes.
Were you going out?
Yes.
On your birthday?
Yes, why not?
But they're holding a party here for you tonight.
The birthday being used as a weapon.
Really?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Oh, no, it's very nice.
It's paradoxical, isn't it? You can't go out on your birthday. You know, it's
Yeah.
some great taboo, you know.
But you immediately know that McCann's not going to permit him to leave. You know the intimidation is there. And then, as we say, it gets to the point where, well, he has the opportunity, but he doesn't take it.
Sorry, I'm not in the mood for a party tonight.
Oh, is that so? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm going out to celebrate quietly.
My father often used to say, "Oh, is that so?" to me in that slightly threatening way.
Is that so?
I say slightly threatening, really threatening way. Is that what you think you're going to do?
You and that bastard fly. Yeah.
Guests are expected.
Guests? What guests?
Well, myself, for one. I had the honor of an invitation.
Wouldn't call it an honor, would you? Just be another booze-up.
But it is an honor.
I'd say you were exaggerating.
Oh, no, I'd say it was an honor.
I'd say that was plain stupid.
Ah, no.
He's trying to rile McCann up, but McCann's a professional.
A young lady.
Oh, yes.
No.
My friend.
Your friend.
That's right. It's all laid on.
He's killing him with polite menace.
It's all laid on. You wouldn't want to let everybody down.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Where you going?
I want to go out.
Why don't you stay here?
He's got the chance.
No.
But
no. It's all laid on.
Are you down here on holiday?
Short one.
So again, now it's like playing cricket over.
Mind that.
Is it?
Mind it. Leave it.
I've got a feeling we've met before.
Now.
No, we haven't.
Ever been anywhere near Maidenhead?
Now Weber's doing the bowling.
Yeah, pushing back a bit.
So for those tea shop, I used to have my tea there.
I don't know it.
Boots Library. I seem to connect you with the high street.
Yes.
Charming town, don't you think?
I don't know it.
Oh, no? Quiet, thriving community. I was born and brought up there. I live well away from the main road.
Oh, yes.
You're here on a short stay?
That's right.
You'll find it very bracing.
Do you find it racing?
Me? Oh, but you will. I like it here. But I'll be moving soon. Back home. Stay there too this time. No place like home. I wouldn't have left. The business calls. Business called and I had to leave for a bit. You know how it is.
Are you in business?
No, I think I'll give it up. Got a small private income, you see? I think I'll give it up. Don't like being away from home. I used to live very quietly. Played records. That's about all. Everything delivered to the door.
Pleading in his
And I
voice.
started a little private business in a small way.
It's sort of, you know, it's the you know, I just lived quietly. I lived quietly. You know, this sort of it's almost sort of like, you know, you can't punish me because I didn't ever step out of the box.
Exactly.
You know?
He's always having to construct his own defense in this atmosphere of just, you know, it could be polite dialogue where there's a hidden accusation, but then he creates for himself a hidden sense of guilt, which he has to then justify.
Yes, and of course, you know, the ethnic and religious backgrounds of McCann and Goldberg also play into this idea of guilt, don't they? Because of course, both those religions have a great emphasis on the idea of you that no matter what you do, you are guilty. You know, you are innately sinful. There is something innately punishable about you.
And that kind of lends itself to the way that infuses the kind of progressive politics that comes out of Pinter, because then that guilt creates an obligation on you to create positive actions in the world, which redress the guilt that you have that's inescapable.
Yes.
And it compelled me to come down here. Kept me longer than I expected. You never get used to living in someone else's house. Don't you agree? I live so quietly. You can only appreciate what you've had when things change. That's what they say, isn't it? Cigarette?
I don't smoke.
Who's out there?
My friend and the man of the house.
Slightly pointed line there, the man of the house, I thought.
It gives Petey a sort of status he doesn't really have, doesn't it? You know?
Yeah.
It's quite grand for him, man of the house.
Yeah. Well, we'll develop this idea as Goldberg comes in.
You know what? You look at me. I bet you wouldn't think I'd led such a quiet life. The lines on my face, eh? The drink. Been drinking a bit down here.
The fear.
But what I mean is, away from your own. All wrong, of course. I'll be all right when I get back. What I mean is the way some people look at me, you'd think I was a different person.
Interesting reference to drink there, by the way. Interesting reference to drink there. They were both huge drinkers, Shaw and McGee. And indeed Pinter as well, really.
Yes. I mean, it came with the turf, I suppose. Professions. You know?
Hey, man, I always was. I mean, you wouldn't think to look at me, really. I mean, not really, that I was the sort of bloke to cause any trouble. Would you? You know what I mean.
There's also something very Soviet about this.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, obviously watching, you know, the Adam Curtis films recently. I mean, and you know, and people talk about the atmosphere of paranoia in places like the Soviet Union. You know, it's this idea that you could do everything right. You know, but there's some, you know, they might just come for you. It may just be decided. You know,
and that's really, I mean, when we talk about Pinter as a political writer, obviously he had an anti-Americanism, anti-imperialism. It's difficult to think of him as a kind of leftist in a kind of doctrinaire way. that, that he would have policies on, state ownership or, the nature of the economy. But it certainly, expressed itself, especially in a kind of hatred of the authoritarian regime of some kind. So in the
Yeah.
sense that Pinter himself, as he disavowed being interested in, quote, politics, i.e., quote, slop politics, such as we talk
Mm.
about, but he is interested in the political as the way in which people negotiate their differences and the power dynamics of that.
Yes, and as you say, I don't think he ever really developed what you call a coherent political philosophy, and that he advocated this or that ideology. It was, you
No.
say, it was a case of he hated unnecessary authority and kind of reaching,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of it was really it sounds a bit cliche, but I think it's true, sort of running away from that very the orthodoxies of that Jewish background.
Yeah.
Because Pinter's parents weren't what you call Orthodox Jews in the sense, they wouldn't dress in robes and kind of go to the temple all the time. They were fairly run of the mill and not particularly observant, but they were just crammed with ideas about life and authority, that you had to do this, you had to do that. Respectability was everything. Tradition was everything. Platitudes were everything. I think is that probably the crucible in which this great kick against that was formed.
And again, going back to that idea of the suppression of violence in Pinter, I mean, I just reminded, actually, when you're talking about that Jewish background, that the actor Stephen Burkhoff actually comes from a Jewish background in London, and he kind of worked, in the sort of, the men's clothes business early on. And, he talked about that kind of, traditional working class Jewish kind of mentality. And he would talk about, he was one of these people who sort of bottled up all of this kind of bile and hatred. And he said he used to have this little black book, and when he was working in the shop selling men's trousers or whatever, and all these idiots would come in and, take the pee with him, he would write all of his kind of violent thoughts down in this little radioactive book of hate. Sort of this sense of these people living with wanting to respond very judgmentally and very aggressively to the society around them, and doing it through these methods of containment of that and funneling it into scenes, scenarios, stories, these kinds of oppositions to the conventional.
No. Mind that.
Why are you down here?
Short holiday?
This is a ridiculous house to pick on.
Why?
Pause.
Because it's not a board.
Sorry, I just got to pick up on that. Short holiday, the way he says that.
Short holiday, yeah.
It's
because there's no actual attempt for each other to hide what's going to happen. It's all just taking up the air, isn't it? So he doesn't try to make that line convincing. It's short holiday.
But he gets so much into it. That's what I love about it.
Yes.
It's that, I mean, he is like, it's the classic moments from Clockwork Orange, like, more wine.
Oh God, yeah. My wife,
all right.
raped very badly.
He was just a great actor of intensity there. Yeah.
Big house, it never was.
Sure it is.
Why did you choose this house?
Sir, you're a bit depressed for a man on his birthday.
Why'd you call me sir?
You don't like it?
Listen, don't call me sir.
Well, I won't if you don't like it.
No. Anyway, it's not my birthday.
No?
No, it's not till next month.
They're not according to the lady.
Her? She's crazy, round the bend.
That's a terrible thing to say.
Haven't you found that out yet? There's a lot you don't know. I think someone's leading you up the garden path.
Who would do that?
That woman is mad.
That's slander.
And you don't know what you're doing.
Your cigarette's near that paper.
Where the hell are they? Why don't they come in? What are they doing out there?
You want to steady yourself?
Look,
Listen a minute.
Now let go my arm.
Listen, sit down a minute.
Don't do that!
You knew what I was talking about before, didn't you?
I don't know what you're at all.
It's a mistake, you understand?
You're in a bad state, man.
Back in
Has he
control.
told you anything? Do you know what you're here for? Tell me you needn't be frightened of me. Or hasn't he told you?
Told me what?
I explained to you, damn you. All those years I lived in Basingstoke, I never stepped outside the door.
You know, I'm flabbergasted with you.
Pause a second. There's some just interesting point here to talk about masculine dialogue and aggression. And there's something in my mind here. I mean, about, you know, you think about post-war Britain, people who'd come back from war, from actual horrendous violent conflict, and you have the sense of men who are a lot more in control. And today you have verbal conflict with people and they go from 0 to nutter in a fraction of a second.
Straight away, yeah.
And yet you get this sense here of men who are very capable, who could be very quiet and very deadly, but they didn't need to shout or I mean, McGee's giving a kind of masterclass of showing that, you know, I'm not riled by you. I'm not, you know, in fact, if anything, I'm showing sympathy to you. I think you're under stress.
And it was the way the boundary was clearly crossed when Weber grabbed his arm.
Yeah.
And there was a real moment of physical panic. And then there was that really hard lash out, you know, to break his arm off.
And that was like that was almost like a commando move. You know, you see that there's some people who can inflict violence on you very quickly and very precisely, and they can stop whatever's happening. And some of these old guys, you used to see. I mean, I'd never make the mistake of thinking an old guy's a pushover, especially if he's been in the military. He can pull a number on you that will stop you dead, and yet he can retain his composure. This is what I'm fascinated by, this sense of the force of these guys without having to. Today it would be lots of barking and shouting and swearing and finger pointing, and, you know, it'd be very kinetic, whereas this is very interesting.
Yes, and of course then, you know, not back to control, and then the little +1 with the oh, I'm flabbergasted with you, you know, kind of just that, you know, pushing him down again, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you must be mad.
Yeah. You're giving people a lot of leeway to wind themselves back.
You look an honest man. You're being made a fool of, that's all. You understand?
And he makes Stanley plead because of that. He doesn't lose his control.
Of course, Stanley's worried now because he's ignoring him.
Yeah.
Where do you come from?
Where do you think?
I know Ireland very well. I've many friends there. I love that country, and I admire and I trust its people. I trust them.
That was very true of Shaw, actually. He did. He had a deep love, affection for Ireland. He lived in County Mayo, I think, towards the end of his life. He was very much a
Celt.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love the pathetic aspect of that line. Just grabbing at straws. All right, where are you from? Well, you're from Ireland. Oh, well, I love Ireland. I love the people. You know, a great bunch of lads, as they say in Father Ted.
Yeah.
It's this patheticness. Oh, well, you know, I love. You know, it's totally.
Yeah. You won't find any anti-Irishness in me.
No. Oh, Ireland. Oh, love it. You know.
They respect the truth. They have a sense of humor. I've been there. I've never seen such sunsets.
They respect the truth. They have a sense of humor.
I've never seen such sunsets.
Please don't hit me.
I mean, but this is the comedy aspect of the comedy of menace. You know.
Yeah.
There is something genuinely hilarious about this. You know, desperately trying to make good graces with this sort of, you know, juggernaut professional who just isn't going to let him get an inch of leeway in.
I love McGee's implacability here. He's just.
I know. Look at the jaw. Look at the angle of the jaw and the way he holds his head directly level. You know?
and that's why it makes intriguing the moments where you see his character in distress, where he has these moments that it kind of pierces him in some way, but it doesn't relent from the fact that he's just a wall in front of you that will not give way.
He is literally the muscle.
Yeah.
What about coming out to have a drink with me? There's a pub down the road serves draft Guinness. It's very difficult to get in these parts. A mother in a million.
Of course, the slight sort of joke there that he tries to be sort of I love Ireland, it's a great country, and then immediately goes, oh, they've got Guinness, you must like Guinness,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Ah, that's Dan. You haven't met Dan, have you, Mr. Goldberg?
I have another pleasure.
Well, this is Mr. Goldberg, this is Mr. Weber.
Pleased to meet you.
We were getting a bit of air in the garden.
I was telling Mr. Bowles about my old mum. What days? Yes.
Here we
When I
go
was a
again.
youngster of a Friday, I used to go for a walk down the canal with a girl who lived down my road. Beautiful girl. What a voice that bird had. A nightingale, my word of honor. Good. Pure. She wasn't a Sunday school teacher for nothing. Anyway, I'd leave her with a little kiss on the cheek. I never took liberties. We weren't like the young men.
Bit like A talking about Porthcaldus, the light in his eyes.
He's got this wonderful line here. He's like, we what was it? We weren't like in the old days.
We weren't like the young men of these days in those days.
In those
It's
days,
a very tricky line to deliver with the patter that he does.
And he pointedly puts that at Stanley again, like this kind of Bolshevik student kind of character. And this mode actually of a social mode of going into a reverie about something is kind of also something that's been lost. You don't sit in a room with people and they suddenly sort of strike up a story about the past or something.
Well, that's something that's been lost. Yeah, it's the storytelling. Is that if you're sat on a train with a bunch of other people and you've read your paper and obviously there's no smartphones and you would sort of tell a story. I mean, there's an awful lot of art and drama for which that is the setup, right? It's a bunch of people are stuck together somewhere and they start telling each other about what's going on and stories.
It's just a form that's slipped from our the discourse toolbox in a way. But I mean, in a way, the Irish are kind of licensed to do that still. They will kind of do it and people will be gripped. They'll sit and they'll I remember the time when, and they'll tell you a story and it'll be great. And sometimes it'll be kind of random. I mean, I remember once years ago I was in a sort of municipal swimming pool. I used to go when the old guys swam in the afternoon when it was quiet and go up and down the lanes. And once I just got to the end of the lane and this other old guy was coming to the end of the lane and I was just taking a rest and he just got to the end of the lane. I'd never talked to him before and he sort of stood in the lane with me and he turned to me and he just said, "I've got a bit of advice for you. Never chase after women or buses." And then he just left enigmatically going up the lane. And I thought, that's great. They'll just offer you this unsolicited advice. And it's kind of,
You need to know this. That's wonderful.
In those days, we knew the meaning of respect.
I might try and... I'm just going to, because I think we should
What
hear the line. It is wonderful.
Yes. When I was a youngster of a Friday, I used to go for a walk down the canal with a girl who lived down my road. Beautiful girl. What a voice that bird had. A nightingale, my word of honor. Good. Pure. She wasn't a Sunday school teacher for nothing. Anyway, I'd leave her with a little kiss on the cheek. I never took liberties. We weren't like the young men these days in those days. We knew the meaning of respect. I'd give her a peck.
Wonderful.
And I'd bowl back home. Coming away, I'd be past the children's playground. I'd tip my hat to the toddlers.
I tip my hat to the toddlers. It's such it's the way Pinter starts you off with this, like a monologue so kind of cliched, and you know exactly what's coming. The good old days when everything was sweet. And then he'll throw in a line like that just totally throws it. What the hell do you mean you tipped your hat to the top? I mean, it's bizarre turns of phrase. So wonderfly written.
Give a helping hand to a couple of stray dogs.
No. I was going to say, but it creates this image that Goldberg, he self-mythologizes himself, and creates this image of him as a sort of light-hearted kind of just tripping along in the world with a sunny smile and an upturned face all the time.
Yeah.
Everything came natural. I can see it like yesterday.
I mean, really, I suppose it's his version of Stanley's piano monologue, isn't it?
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
we know Stanley isn't going to go around the world and go to Vladivostok and play the piano in Constantinople. You know,
Yeah.
It's sort of like this is Goldberg's own, just, you know, it may as well just be a fiction in his own head of, you know, how wonderful everything is, and, you know, because
Yeah.
it's clearly what gets him through, isn't it? It's what he lives on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you get a sense he could have actually lived that, but as you say, at the same time, you've got to be wary of believing anything.
Mm.
The sun falling behind the dog stadium.
Like behind the town hall
What town?
in Carrickmacross.
There's no comparison.
London versus Ireland doesn't compare.
Poor McCann, you know, shuts him down there.
Was he doing that
Inside
like the
the
dog
door.
stadium in? Is it Walthamstow or something? With it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh no, because the Pinter, there used to be a huge dog track in Hackney near the grammar school.
Okay.
Which was briefly a cricket ground, then I think it was demolished. But yeah, so you know, the sun's also because it's such a you know, the sunset behind the dog track.
I was going to say it's funny.
So,
This
so
Eastern
unromantic.
nostalgia. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. Also, just the way, you know, the way he sort of puts McCann, you know, my fake nostalgia is better than your fake nostalgia.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's just like being into right wing politics.
Simon, my old mum used to shout, quick before it gets cold. And there on the table, what would I see?
And do you notice there he refers to himself as Simey, whereas earlier McCann called him Nat. Again, it's the shifting of identity. Who is he? Who is Nat? Who is Simey? Who is Weather? You know,
everything slips in your memory. You know, what did that really happen, or is it just that I like the memory, so I'll represent it as what actually happened?
They're clinging on to all these traditions and stories as you know, just a way to try and find some semblance of who they are, some memory.
Yeah.
The nicest piece of gefilte fish you could wish to find on a plate.
That's what your name was, Nat.
She called me Simon.
Gefilte fish, for people who are interested, apparently it's like a kind of fish meatloaf. You get a
Jewish thing.
and cook it in the skin, and that's what it essentially is. I hadn't realized.
Gefilte fish. Gefilte fish.
You just want to do the accent, don't you? It's a nice piece of gefilte fish. No, and
we weren't like the young men of these days in those days.
Yeah. And at the same time, Pinter's obviously investing in with Jewishness. You wonder how much of that is, again, like a fabricated or a reconstructed.
Yeah, he's
cliche
leaning on the Jewishness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to be off.
Off?
It's my chest knife.
You're not staying for the party?
No. I'm sorry, Stan, but I didn't know about it till just now, and we've got a game on. I'll try and get back early.
We'll save some drink for you, all right? Oh, that reminds me. You better go and collect the bottles.
No?
Of course now. Time's getting on. Round the corner, remember? Mention my name.
I'm coming your way.
Meet him quick and come back, Mr. Bond.
I'll do my best. See you later, Stan.
Why?
Wiping. Filth.
Warm night.
Don't mess me about.
Beg your pardon?
I'm afraid there's been a mistake. We're booked out. Your room has been taken. Mrs. Bowles forgot to tell you. You'll have to find somewhere else.
Are you the manager here?
That's right.
Is it a good game?
I run the house. I'm afraid you and your friend will have to find other accommodation.
Oh, I forgot. I must congratulate you on your birthday. Congratulations.
Using the birthday again to beat him back.
Yeah.
That's your death.
No. What makes you think that? As a matter of fact, every single one of my senses is at its peak. Not bad going, eh, for a man past 50. But a birthday, I always feel, is a great occasion. Taken too much for granted these days. What a thing to celebrate. Birth. Like getting up in the morning. Marvelous. Some people don't like the idea of getting up in the morning. I've heard them.
Of course, we've seen Stanley
Getting up
get
in the morning, they say. What is it?
We know he doesn't like
Your
it.
skin's crabby. You need a shave. Your eyes full of muck. Your mouth is like a boghouse. The palms of your hands are full of sweat. Your nose is clogged up. Your feet stink. What are you but a corpse waiting to be washed? Whenever I hear that point of view, I feel cheerful. Because I know what it is to wake up with the sun shining, to the sound of the lawnmower, all the little birds, the smell of the grass, church bells, tomato juice. Get out.
Tomato juice.
Just to say that again, that way that Goldberg talks is very reminiscent of when you read these interviews with Pinter. He does, it is him in a way. It is him constantly reminding you that I'm fit as a fiddle. You know, I'm very. He talks about playing tennis with his wife Antonia Fraser. You know, we play a lot at tennis. I'm very energetic now, more energetic than ever. He's constantly having to sort of fortify a kind of. It feels like a sort of an image of virility or. Some sort of sense of resisting decay, you know, being kind of fierce and oppositional.
It's the fear of death and nothingness, I think, is the you know the need to feel vital. I mean, I've told the story on Deepest Law, I think. You know, my dad once nearly got in a fight with Harold Pinter because he was coming out of a nightclub, very old. I mean, this is the night, very old Harold Pinter. Coming out of some place, and he was quite drunk, and he'd been very abusive to the staff, and they were throwing him out. And he was kind of tossing his weight around, you know, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? You know, all this sort of thing. Yeah. And my dad shouted something at him, you know, sort of, you know, in jest, you know, sort of calm down, Harold, you know, don't take yourself so seriously type of thing. And he was just straight on, you know, he was, come on then, right, put him up, you know, straight away, you know. Yeah. He did have that sense to him. And yeah, I think he also had the sort of stereotypical Jewish thing about the sort of not sort of the obsession with cleaning. And you know, you got to wash, and you know the way Goldberg so obsessively rubs his hands with that tissue. You know, it's apparently he was also that sort of type, but he was, you know, as you said, quite self-aware of it. I mean, clearly there is, you know, an element of him in the character quite knowingly, and of course he played the character on several occasions. I don't think he's self-conscious. I'm not suggesting Pinter hides anything, because actually he is very kind of open about the way he writes. Is he says he doesn't like think of a theme to write about. It's sort of coming out of him in a kind of instinctive way. He says, for instance, things he said, I do not care what critics think or even what people think of my plays, because I'm not writing it for them. It's some form of channeling out something instinctive at a level that's non-verbal as well. And a lot of writers claim that, but they basically, it's not true. Whereas for him, I think that really was the case, in that his audience was himself. He wrote to entertain himself, and he wrote to find out what he thought about things. And it's, I mean, he said this over and over. You know, people would. He was infuriated with the kind of post-60s academic culture that was always looking for, okay, well, what does this piece of work mean? What is this about? You know, what is the symbolism? And he would get, you know, physically irate with a lot of these people. You know,
he did not like dramatic theory at all. No,
he hated the idea that people were looking at the birthday party and going, well, McCann's newspaper represents the way of the world. You know, and this kind of, and he would say he once shouted at I think it was some English academic. He said, so Mr. Pinter, what are your plays actually about? And he said, they're about the weasel in the sideboard, you know, as a kind of you know, joke, sort of piss off answer. And the academic took that seriously. He went and wrote an entire paper about the meaning of the weasel in the sideboard.
That's right. And he said later, I read that, he said later about, you know, he sort of not regretted it, but he said he's very suspicious of interviews, because things like that get taken and then blown into something
completely at face value.
And he didn't want that at all. The interesting thing reading him is, in a way, I think he comes across as quite a reactionary figure. He's very contained in himself and his views, and he does not need the scaffolding of opinion to matter in a way. And he talks about Tom Stoppard as a very conservative writer. So he frames himself slightly in opposition in a way as a sort of more progressive figure. But actually, you look at Pinter's, I mean, for God's sake, he's living in one of the massive, like, grace and favor apartments in Holland, not in Regent's Park, while this play this is being filmed in a place that's worth 17 million quid now. He's not living in this kind of situation at all. So he is very much of a world that is perfectly capable of being its own generation, of its own contained nature, of its own judgments, and doesn't rely on anything about what you think at all. And it's strange that he's kind of thought of as, go on.
Well, like George Orwell, he completely understood that euphemism is one of the great tools of tyranny. That the more that you can sort of, I hate to use the word morph, but you can sort of morph language in so many ways until you can do what you want with it. I mean, this was practiced by all the great tyrannical sort of regimes, and of course, the way that the left began to do it in the 60s, post Derrida and this kind of thing. It is basically that in that it kind of feeds into a sort of nihilism where nothing has any value.
Yes.
Nothing has any fixed currency.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do stuff like endlessly discuss, the techniques and the meanings of various things, rather than just take it as art, then you can, it's an extremely destructive weapon, and I think Pinter was perfectly aware of that, which is why he was so resistant against it. Despite outwardly being a very, very, traditionally leftist figure, even an internationalist figure, this kind of he was totally against the idea that language is just totally plastic, That you can use it in that way.
And yet he embraces ambiguities, and he's comfortable with. He's very solid as a person. He drinks his scotch on the rocks. He plays tennis with his wife. He's very energetic, but at the same time, he talks about. What's his quote? He said, the fact is, it's terribly difficult to define what happened at any time. I think it's terribly difficult to define what happened yesterday. That old Catholic thing, the sin in the head. So much is imagined, and that imagining is as true as real. So he's trying, people have identified a lot about Pinter. He's trying to sort of concretize the intangible, if that doesn't sound too wanky. He's trying to make the expression of these things that are difficult to sort of nail down.
Well, this is this is a huge thing in what I would call true modernism or high modernism. As practiced by someone like, say, T.S. Eliot, and arguably someone like Pinter in a play like this, where the ambiguity and the lack of certainty is part of the power. So what you always end up with is you get people who will try to boil everything down to a single thing. Ironically, I know I said that it was all about, making everything plastic, but it's kind of a case of both being true. So it's sort of the late poet, Sir Geoffrey Hill, was constantly people said, his work is very difficult. They love this word. It's very difficult poetry. And he said, well, look, the average person's average day will encounter far more difficulty than any piece of art, even though the most difficult work of art, right? The average basic communication and just trying to get anything done will be harder than any of that. Why shouldn't art be difficult? Why would you demand art has to mean, it's sort of like if you were teaching this play in a modern secondary school, you would just say, you can't really deal with it on an artistic level. So you just say, okay, you have to write an essay about the meaning of this, the symbol of that. This character represents, tyranny. But no, it doesn't. But because that's you're destroying the art. You're destroying you're destroying the fact that it is ambiguous. That it can only really affect you partly on a non-rational level.
Exactly. You kind of there's all these contingencies and difficulties with Pinter because of that, because it's like I did a stream with Alexander Adams recently. We talked about the artist Mark Rothko and the way Rothko was insistent that you had to engage with his work. He wasn't going to tell you what it was about, but you did have to you had to not just intellectually engage, you had to let yourself be enveloped by it in some way. It had to be a kind of reaction that was kind of pre-verbal or instinctive, or just something coming from the organic human, not something where you hang a peg of, oh, this is a symbol of this is a metaphor, this is
Yes.
an allegory. It's kind of going to the lizard brain we talk about, don't we? It's going to the sort of sub-rational in some way as well, and as a result, such art can be difficult, can be very stark and bleak. And I can look at things like this and I can think, it is very kind of frustrating, and it's not cozy in the same way that lots of things one might like are cozy, but it's challenging and interesting because of that antipathy to that sense of coziness. There's a thing that he talks about with relation to Beckett. He said, Beckett, who without demonstrating obvious emotion can be quite emotional, he talks about the simplicity of means of doing that on a stage. The writers he thinks are great writers. He likes Dostoevsky, Joyce, Proust, and Beckett, and these are not easy writers in any sense that you pick them up like an airport novel and just go, well, that was fun. These are things which kind of endure because they have that they're like the Eiger. You've got to climb them as well.
Yes. And Pinter also spoke several times about the idea that so his example was that we constantly abuse each other in ways we don't ourselves recognize. He said, so when you see somebody partaking in child abuse, you immediately recognize it for what it is. But if you yourself were doing it, you wouldn't recognize it for what it is. It's his idea. And that, I think, is quite a way into the psychology of a piece of work like this, is that the plot, if you like, is the destruction of the individual, right? Whether, and it's not in a kind of it's not in a kind of specious way of, oh, this wonderful, precious, beautiful individual being crushed by tyranny. No, because we don't have to like Stanley. It's not really a case of whether he's good or he has anything worth saving. It's just the fact that
relatable, as they say in Hollywood.
Exactly. It's for whatever reason these forces and these people conspire to destroy him in a certain way. That's basically it.
And that's why the English life is kind of a good petri dish for looking at this, because it's prone to all these kinds of localized madnesses and dysfunctions, which are kept up. They're maintained as familiar, even if they're unpleasant or painful.
Yes.
Get that drink out of here. These are unlicensed premises.
You're in a terrible humor today, Mr. Webb. No, your birthday too, with a good reason for getting us straight up to give you our party.
I've always loved the fact, I don't know why this particular detail appeals to me. It's the fact that they sent the can out to what was presumably a bottle shop.
Yeah.
This is, this is 1950s, right? I mean, you wouldn't have a 24-hour off license. You would have had to go to probably a pub which would have had a bottle shop attached.
Yeah.
And what he's brought back is just 6 bottles of whiskey.
I know. I was going to say about 5-6 bottles of Johnny Walker. We're having a party, 6 bottles of whiskey.
This is serious. It's serious drinking.
I told you to get those bottles out.
Professional drinking.
Mr. Webb, sit down a minute.
And also, do you notice that even later, it's if you had a party today, you'd have to buy, well, I want some kombucha. Or I want some, I just want a gin and lemonade. Even Meg just has a big old dram of scotch.
Yeah.
These were proper. These people who could take their drink back in those days.
I mean, that is a thing with being around people, I have to say, who are fussy drinkers. Because I mean,
I hate that.
The only thing I don't drink is beer. Okay, I will.
Right.
I will find any other form of alcohol acceptable. I mean, I had Courvoisier recently for the first time. I thought, oh, this is delicious.
VSOP.
And there's that thing of, if somebody offers, so many people, you offer them a glass of spirits and, I don't like it, it burns. And they don't, you have to cultivate the ability to drink different forms of alcohol as a pleasure.
Well, this is it.
I'm not saying being an alcoholic, I'm saying just as a social thing.
It's those people that don't understand the miracle of drink. It's the it's not meant to taste nice. It's got character. It's got body. It kicks you as you go down. That's part of the fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
but it
also
does
because
taste.
if you were the age of these characters and you lived in this time, then you
Yeah.
would just you'd be to just knock down half a pint of scotch in a
But
couple
in
of
the end,
minutes.
the nature of drinking, isn't it? As you say, the miracle of drink. I love that. That's
Mm,
the joy of it is that it unlocks something in the way, it's like Proust's Madeleine, isn't it?
yes.
The moment you bite into it, and then the memory and the sentimentality floods out, and we see that in the party scene as this evolves.
Mm,
But that's part of the nature of what it is, and that's why it's a kind of social accelerant, or an interactant that makes it meaningful. That actually, the first time you drink a whiskey, you think, "Oh, that tastes a bit harsh," but then you
yeah.
learn to drink it, and then you learn you're not drinking it like Coca-Cola. You're not drinking it like a milkshake.
Yeah.
It's
Because
something
if it was
else.
if it was easy enough to drink as a milkshake or a Coke, then it wouldn't be whiskey. The
Yeah,
point is that there is it's like, no, it doesn't actually taste particularly nice. It doesn't feel
yeah.
particularly nice. It's the that's the
And
nothing that comes that easily is worth having.
exactly. But then eventually, I mean, I must say, it probably happens with beer, even though, as I said, all beer just tastes like stale bread to me, so I can't drink it. I'm sure it must happen. You must have a transcendental moment of it. And it happens when you have a really nice whiskey or a really nice wine, it once
I mean,
you've,
I find the beautiful thing about beer is the way you can just sink it. There's just the volume of it, when you're sort of
yeah.
5-6, when you're 5-6 in and you get the,
Well,
you pick up
that's
that next one and you get the lapping of the foam and,
That's what I find mad about beer, because I don't understand it. And I have friends who say, "Yeah, I had like 12 pints or something." I think, how on earth
Mm.
does your body contain that much in a night? I mean, first of all, my bladder would explode, but I don't know how do you, that's the wonder of beer, which is an avenue closed to me, but joyfully open to the rest of you.
It's how it goes,
Yeah.
Horses for courses.
Pick your poison.
Let me just make this clear. You don't bother me at all. To me, you're nothing but a dirty joke. But I have a responsibility towards the people in this house. They've been down here too long. They've lost their sense of smell. I haven't. Nobody's going to take advantage of them while I'm here.
Having watched this, I want to go out and have conversations like this with people.
Anyway,
Really loaded, tense
this house
conversations.
isn't your cup of tea. There's nothing
Without
here for
reacting.
you from any angle. Any angle. Why don't you just go without any more fuss?
Mr. Weber, sit down.
It's no good starting any kind of trouble.
Sit down.
All right, now, Simon, I think what we should do
Yeah.
is we
Shake
should
it up.
watch this entire scene.
Yep.
No pauses, no commentary. Just let the whole, because this is
This
the
is
scene,
the scene.
right?
Yeah.
This is where we go into real horrific psychological horror, right?
Yeah.
So let's not say anything. Once we get to what I'll call the interruption,
Yes.
we will stop and discuss, and then probably we will wrap up and do part 2.
Yes.
If you're available at the end of this week, actually, that'd be quite good.
Yes, that sounds great. Yes, I mean, everybody watching, just let yourself float into the frame and be consumed by the intensity.
Yes. All right. So I'll see you on the other side, Simon.
Quiet. You're all quiet.
Why should I?
If you want to know the truth, Weber, you're beginning to get on my breasts.
Really? Well, that's...
Sit down!
No.
Okay.
Nat?
Ask him to sit down.
Yes, Nat. Do you mind sitting down?
Yes, I do mind.
Yes, Nat, but it'd be better if you did.
Why don't you sit down?
No, not me. You.
No, thanks.
Nat?
What?
He won't sit down.
Well, ask him.
I've asked him.
Ask him again.
Sit down.
Why?
We're a bit more comfortable.
So would you.
All right. If you will, I will.
You first.
Well,
Right. Now you've both had your rest. You can get out.
learn your dirty trick.
Keep the shit up! No! I'll stood up.
Sit down again.
Once I'm up, I'm up.
Same here.
You, Mr. Goldberg, stand up.
You're doing good.
Get in that seat.
McCann!
Get down in that seat.
Weber! Sit down.
You better be careful.
Weber? What were you doing yesterday?
Yesterday?
And the day before? What did you do the day before that?
What do you mean?
Why are you wasting everybody's time, Weber? Why are you getting in everybody's way?
Me? What are you...
I'm telling you, Weber. You're a washout. Why are you getting on everybody's wick? Why are you driving that old lady off her conch?
He likes to do it.
Why do you behave so badly, Weber? Why do you force that old man out to play chess?
Me?
Why do you treat that young lady like a leper? She's not the leper, Weber. What? What did you wear last week, Weber? Where do you keep your suits?
Why did you leave the organization?
What would your old mum say?
Why did you betray us?
You hurt me, Weber. You're playing a dirty game.
It's a black and tan fact.
Who does he think he is?
Who do you think you are?
You're on the wrong horse.
When did you come to this place?
Last year.
Where did you come from?
Somewhere else.
Why did you come here?
My feet hurt.
Why did you stay?
Had a headache.
Did you take anything for it?
Yes.
What?
Fruit salt?
He knows or Andrew?
Yeah.
Did you stir properly? Did they fizz?
No.
Did they fizz?
Wait.
Did they fizz or didn't they fizz?
He doesn't know.
You don't know. When did you last have a bath?
I have one every...
Don't lie!
You betrayed the organization. I know it.
You don't.
What can you see without your glasses?
Anything?
Take off his glasses. Weber, you're a fake. When did you last wash up a cup?
Christmas before last.
Where?
Grimes Corner House.
Which one?
Marble Light?
Where was your wife? Answer.
What wife?
What have you done with your wife?
He's killed his wife.
Why did you kill your wife? What wife?
How did he kill her?
How did you kill her?
You throttled her.
With arsenic.
There's your man.
Where's your old mum?
In the sanatorium.
Yes.
Why did you never get married?
She was waiting at the porch.
You skedaddled from the wedding.
He left her in the lurch.
You left her in the pudding cloud.
She was waiting at the church.
Weber, why did you change your name?
I forgot the other one.
What's your name now? Joe Soap! You stink of sin.
I can smell it.
Do you recognize an external force? What? Do you recognize an external force?
That's the question.
Do you recognize an external force responsible for you, suffering for you?
It's late.
Late enough. When did you last pray?
He's sweating.
When did you last pray?
He's sweating.
Is the number 846 possible or necessary?
Neither.
Wrong. Is the number 846 possible or necessary?
Both.
Wrong. It is necessary but not possible.
Both.
Wrong. Why do you think the number 846 is necessarily possible?
Must be.
Wrong. It's only necessarily necessary. We admit possibility only after we grant necessity. It is possible because necessary, but by no means necessary through possibility. The possibility can only be assumed after proof of necessity.
Right.
Right, of course, right. We are right and you're wrong, Weber. All along the line.
All along the line.
Where is your lechery leading you?
You'll pay for this.
You stuff yourself with dry toast.
Contaminate womankind.
Why don't you pay the rent?
Mother defiler.
Why do you pick your nose?
I demand justice.
What's your trade?
What about Ireland?
What's your trade?
I play the piano.
How many fingers do you use?
No hands.
No society would touch you. Not even our building society.
You are a traitor to the cloth.
What do you use for pajamas? Nothing. You verminate the sheet of your birth.
What about the Albigensianist heresy?
Who watered the wicked at Melbourne?
What about the blessed Oliver Plunkett?
Who held the nails?
Who drove in the screws?
Speak up, Weber. Why did the chicken cross the road?
He wanted to. He wanted to.
He wanted to cross the road.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
He wanted to. He wanted.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
He wanted. He doesn't know. He doesn't know which came first.
Which came first?
Chicken, egg, which came first?
Which came first? Which came first? Which came first? He doesn't know. You know your own face.
Wake him up. Stick a needle in his eye.
You're a plague, Weber. You're an overthrow.
What's left?
But we've got the answer to you. We can sterilize you.
What about Jordan?
Your bite is dead. Only your pong is left.
You betrayed our land.
You betray our breed.
Who are you, Weber?
What makes you think you exist?
You're dead.
You're dead. You can't live, you can't think, you can't love. You're dead. You're a plague gone bad. There's no juice in you. You're nothing but an odor. Right. Steady, man.
Come on. He's sweating.
Easy, McCann.
The bastard. Sweat pig. Sweat.
I brought the drum down.
Wow.
Wow. You just want to have a party now and have people over and torture them, don't you?
the hundreds of times I've seen that, I've even learned all the dialogue and performed it at one point, and it's still always really frightens me. That scene.
Yeah, it'd be a great scene to play. It'd be great fun to play that. I mean, I've never done it.
Well, it's the hellishness was spending months learning the dialogue because it's so fast and so it's
and you've got to be on it. Yeah,
really difficult.
Yeah.
Lightning quick. I mean, it's really, really hard scene.
Interesting references in it. Joe Soap, he says at one point. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a
people wouldn't get that nowadays.
Like I say, it's a British, it's kind of British rhyming slang for dope, basically, like an idiot.
Joe Soap.
And the Albigensian heresy,
the Cathars,
the sort of people, they sort of Manichaeans who thought in terms of, God is all spiritual and all good, and the devil is all physical and materialist.
Yeah, and the blessed Oliver Plunkett.
The blessed Oliver Plunkett, who's the last Catholic martyr who was executed in England, who watered the wicket in Melbourne. Apparently,
I don't know what that means.
It was some sort of controversy during the Ashes test in cricket in 1955. Someone at the MCG, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, came in and soaked the wicket with water. This apparently, I mean, I don't know why this particularly matters, but apparently it means it's something to do with the bowling is less effective or something like that.
Right.
It's part of his obsession with cricket, obviously, but essentially it was sabotaging the pitch, basically.
Yeah. Well, they're laying all these great sins at his feet, aren't they?
Yeah.
That of course have no real relevance to him or bearing at all. But it's just they're throwing them at him.
And there's the great ambiguous construction of the reality again that we all want to kind of press in on it. You left the organization. Again,
yes,
crime organization, espionage. You're a traitor to the cloth.
Is McCann just saying it? Does it? And the fact that Webber makes the mistake of trying to answer, of trying to fight the questions back, and of course that's the cardinal error, isn't it? That's that's why it works, because he rapidly runs out of steam, and you can see him kind of begin to believe the reality they're forcing on him, about the killing his wife and leaving her at the altar. You left her in the pudding club.
And there's a lot of those motors of English comedy that we talked about before. The characters who we see in comedies who they kind of, they're under pressure to perform, but they don't really know anything, and they kind of mumble these ridiculous answers, or they just make things up. It's kind of the comedy of embarrassment again, and it tracks something in English life, which is the imposter syndrome. That lots of people in English life feel like they're not qualified to be there, they're not bright enough, they're not competent enough. And of course the reality is, in a lot of our public life, that is true. they're not bright enough or competent enough. But in general society, it's also a kind of control mechanism as well, to give people a sense at some level of that ontological insecurity. You don't really know anything. And it's why social dialogue again gets constrained and deconstructed in a way that makes it sort of impossible to act politically. It's like the millennial woes thing, the tweet about the left pretending not to understand anything, so you can't make discourse possible. There's always a sense of the destabilization of language. We see it on social media. People argue with each other. So what's your facts? What's your citation? What do you mean by that term? Everything ends up being destabilized. You can't agree on anything. And as a result, you end up almost thinking to yourself, do I know what I'm talking about? Do I know what my position is? And the contrast with someone like Pinter, who he very much knows what his positions are. They're just not easily categorizable in ways that we would commonly think of in terms of positions. He's trying to sort of take the kind of organic surging material of himself and put it into forms, but they're not easily categorized or classical in this kind of way. And this is a sort of a tension in English life, I think. You're a washout, basically.
And it's almost a kind of interesting counterblast against the Chestertonian view, that you respect the democracy of the dead, which is what he calls tradition, right? That all this stuff that comes before you, you have to have a weight of respect for it, which you could also almost say is kind of the Goldberg position, right? This obsession with the traditions. Whereas all the stuff that's spewing out at Stanley, it's all stuff that has no relevance to him, because it's all this stuff being laid at his feet, which he has no responsibility for. Essentially, the great controversies Goldberg and McCann throw at him, and the kind of the bizarre question over the necessary or possible number, where Goldberg launches into a mathematics lecture, about
do you recognize an external force suffering for you?
Mother defiler, you verminate the sheet of your birth.
You're dead. You're nothing but an odor.
And of course, A's favorite line: "We're right and you're wrong, Webber." All along the line.
All along the line. It's I won't say, you know, it's the best scene. I mean, the whole play is great. I just, and to play it would be fantastic fun, but that's very, very powerful, you know. And Pinter relates this like he does the bell, the knock on the door. He talked about it, you know, basically, you know, he was in his time thinking of the Gestapo, you know. He was thinking in terms of the you know, the classic imagery of you know, in the post-war period, the you know, the hanging, the overhanging, the looming, you know, presence of the war, which had, you know, only been over 10 years or so. I mean, he kind of he did reduce the play, I will say, in a way. To he had there was one guy, director called Peter Wood, who was directing the play, and he wrote to Pinter and said, you know, or can you put something in as a final message in the play so everybody knows what it's about, you know? And Pinter sort of, he felt like he was kind of, he begrudgingly wrote something back about, you know, how religious forces ruin our lives, but you can tell that that's kind of meaningless for him. I mean, it may be something you could reference in the play, and again, that's the Cliff Notes answer, isn't it?
If you're a student,
it's about religion being terrible. But that's obviously nonsense in terms of the sophistication of what
it's kind of. I think really it's just about the kind of classic 50s idea of absurdism, in that life will just throw these things at you, all these completely abstract things, you know, that once had relevance but to you don't, right? You know, and of course look how it collapses Stanley. You know, into a complete mess. Right. So, Simon, are you available the same time Thursday?
Sure.
Then this episode of Reviewing Pinter will continue.
Will be continued
at the same time. I'll just make a note. We're at 1:14:17 in the play. Well, I mean, it's easy to remember where we are, isn't it? I mean,
yes. Like James Bond, we will return.
We will return. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you indeed. That was great fun.
All right. Goodbye, all.